TV.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, May 18th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 16 degrees. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. All Ontario adults now eligible to register for their first shot of COVID-19 vaccine. Bookings range from what we've heard to a couple of weeks from now to about a month. Ottawa's mayor is trying to reassure people who worry they have too much competition for vaccine appointments. Here's City News reporter Jason White.
Today's expansion of vaccine eligibility covers all Ontario adults, 18 and older, no matter their health, where they live, nor what they do for work. The province opened things up earlier than planned after next week's vaccine shipment arrived early. If you're newly eligible for a shot and worried you won't get yours, Ottawa's mayor says worry not. Jim Watson writing on social media that if Ottawa Public Health runs out of appointments, more will be added soon. But he says they can't add more appointments unless they have doses of vaccine to go with them. After this group, young people aged 12 to 17 will be the next in line for a vaccine, becoming eligible the week of May 31st. Jason White, City News.
City News time, 9:01. Made in Canada COVID-19 vaccine could be ready for Health Canada to review this summer. Medicago says its vaccine is showing promising antibody results in Phase 2 trials, and a Phase 3 trial with some 30,000 volunteers is underway in our country, also the United States and Britain, and is going to expand to Brazil. Since most Canadians will be vaccinated by summer, Medicago says it's in talks with the federal government to see if its vaccine could be used on a mix-and-match basis for booster shots. Joy over Britain's measured reopening is being tempered today by worries over the COVID-19 variant first detected in India.
For the first time in months, you can now go into a pub and order a pint of beer. That's the good news. The bad news, a new COVID variant from India has shown up in dozens of places here, and health officials are concerned. Environment Secretary George Eustace.
The vaccine does seem to be effective against it, but it does seem to have a higher transmission rate. And the greatest defence we've really got is to ensure that people continue to get their vaccinations, that we roll out that programme.
Overall, nearly 70% of UK adults have now had at least one shot. Tom Rivers, ABC News, London.
City News time, 9:02, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Some areas may have some cloud, but overall plenty of sunshine again today. The high 26 degrees. Tonight, mainly clear and 12, and tomorrow could hit 30 degrees with sunshine. For today, the high 26.
And right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, it's 16 degrees. Ottawa police have closed a portion of Hunt Club eastbound after an early morning shooting. Police say this happened near Paul Benoit Drive, just east of Riverside. 2 men were shot around 5:15 this morning. Now, both are expected to survive. Police are asking for witnesses, including anyone who saw a blue Honda Civic speeding away in westbound lanes around that time, to get in touch with them, or you can do it through Crime Stoppers. Canada's Natural Resource Minister says it would be messy, expensive, and more polluting should Enbridge's Line 5 pipeline be shut down. That was ordered by the governor of Michigan. Seamus O'Regan says it would take a couple of months or longer to find alternative shipping methods if oil and natural gas that runs between Michigan and Ontario is turned off.
It is between the number of trucks that we will need, in terms of the shipping that will be required, or the increase in rail cars that we will need. It's a lot to substitute for Line 5.
Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer fears an environmental catastrophe in the Straits of Mackinac, where Line 5 crosses the Great Lakes. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
When the headlines say X,
he's got the Y.
it's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
30 degrees tomorrow. Did I hear that right? Yep. I looked it up. It would be the first 30-degree day in Ottawa in 9 months. And 6 days. Last time it was 30 degrees in Ottawa, August 13th of last year. It hit 31.1 degrees that day. It was a Thursday. It was some of the hottest weather of the summer. The whole week, that week, coolest it was for the daytime high was 28 degrees. Tomorrow's high, 30 degrees. I, for one, welcome the scorching weather. 2 months ago, it was +5 in Ottawa. So bring it on, I say. Good morning. Welcome to the Rob Snow Show on City News. Great show ahead. I mean, we really do have a great show ahead. We're hitting on a lot of hot topics today. Coming up, COVID is airborne. What does that even mean? What are the implications of that? Why is that even controversial? Okay, COVID is airborne. Why should that shape the way we think about combating the spread of COVID-19? We're going to be joined momentarily by Dr. Jennifer McDonald, works out of the Ottawa Hospital, been on the show before. And this is what we talked about. COVID is airborne. We got into this a little bit yesterday with Dr. Doug Manuel from the University of Ottawa. See, the World Health Organization and the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention now agree with that statement. COVID is airborne. They didn't always agree with that statement. COVID is airborne. That's a big move forward in the thinking about this virus and how to best limit the spread. Because it all starts with cleaner air, cleaner indoor air. Think big investments into HVAC. What should I be when I grow up, Dad? Become an HVAC technician, son. You want to write your own ticket? Become an HVAC technician. Experts on this topic have said, look at it this way. You don't think twice about clean water coming out of the tap. You need to start thinking about clean indoor air in the same kind of way. So we're going to get into all of this with Dr. Jennifer McDonald, Ottawa Hospital, just a few minutes from now. Oh, Professor Ian Lee, the poor professor from the Glebe. Sprott School of Business, Carleton University. One of the things I'm going to ask the professor about is this story from Kate Porter has generated so much controversy and backlash. The very idea of giving Mark Motors, local business, been in business for decades, giving Mark Motors, Porsche dealer, $2.9 million, a grant to help it expand in Vanier at Montreal and Saint Laurent. I mean, in the end, over 10 years, the city would actually collect more in property tax, when it's all said and done. But people are, they're hopping mad over this. People see $2.9 million going to a high-end car dealer, a car dealer selling Porsches. They hit the roof. And it's not just lefties. I've heard it from a few right-wingers, too. They're not crazy about this idea, a grant to a high-end car dealership. We are going to have a chance to follow this as well as all of it is unfolding, the drama at the virtual City Hall, because it's up for discussion at the FEDCO committee, the Zoom meeting today. We will be listening in. I don't know if they'll get to it by noon because it is, I was looking it up, it's the 6th item on the committee agenda today, and there's supposed to be an update on stage 2 of LRT at this committee too, so it could be a long meeting. But, it's interesting when you go through the agenda for this FEDCO committee, you realize the Mark Motors grant is not even the only money that the city could dole out today in the name of economic development. Because the city has what's known as a brownfields program to spur development. There's a vacant lot, there's some contaminated land where somebody wants to slap up a condo tower. Well, the city has a program, brownfields. It will cover some of the costs of cleaning up those old sites. For example, you read through the FEDCO committee agenda for today. There's an old gas station / car dealership. Somerset West, LeBreton Street North. The developer wants to put up a 9-story building, but the land needs to be cleaned up. Used to be a gas station, right? Could be contaminated. And the developer, under the Brownfields program, qualifies for more than $500,000 from the city. Now, would that be better spent if it was put into, say, social services? Would that building get built anyway without that $500,000? Well, that's a good question, isn't it? It is a very good question. Then there's another one on the very same agenda today. Developer, parcel of land near Scott Street, right smack dab near the new LRT line. The owner of this land wants to put up a 26-story residential tower, a 4-story low-rise, some townhomes, 3-story townhomes. Imagine it now, 336 units in all. Like, huge development, right? This developer qualifies for $447,000 under the city's Brownfields program. So here we have the left wing in the city is ready to march in the streets over $2.9 million to a Porsche dealer. Yeah, okay, put the whole policy under review. Are you telling me a residential development with 336 units near LRT dies if it doesn't get $500,000 from the city to help clean up a vacant parcel of land 15 minutes from the Peace Tower? I very much doubt it. $500,000. You couldn't even get one of the 3-story townhomes that are going up there for $500,000, for crying out loud. It's the fact that it's a Porsche dealership that has really set people off. I wonder if they were selling Chevys, would it be okay? Or Hyundais, would it be, or Kias, would it be okay if it was a Kia dealership, or is it because it's a Porsche dealership? There is a story like this. You could write a story like this. They're usually about residential development. You could write a story like that on a weekly basis because there's some developer in town every week is qualifying for money under the auspices of economic development. The city can't give away the money fast enough. And Bill C-10, I dig deep into this one today. They are going to ram this through, those liberals. They're going to ram this through. The blasted internet censorship bill, they're going to ram it through. The liberals, with the help of the Bloc and the NDP, they're all teaming up. They're going to shut down debate on Bill C-10. What a sad moment for Canada that is going to be. All in the name of protecting and promoting Canadian culture, as long as it meets with the liberal seal of approval. It is a drastic overreach by government. It is a power grab when very few people are paying attention. And quite frankly, in my own opinion, I'm still allowed to have those, am I? It is a solution in search of a problem. Our guest this morning to speak on this will be the former Director General of Telecommunications Policy at Industry Canada. That's not bad, eh? Former Director General, Telecommunications Policy, Industry Canada. I would imagine that person will know what he's talking about. His name is Leonard St-Aubin. He's on the show right after 11 o'clock. Encourage you to listen in before they shut us off. He has put his name on a letter to the Prime Minister from the Canadian chapter of what's known as the Internet Society. That letter, lots of names on it, a few that you would recognize, says what the Liberals are about to do with the help of the Bloc, with the help of the NDP, let's not forget them, the abettors in this assault on your freedom. This letter says what they're about to do is, quote unquote, harmful. It will, quote, have negative implications for individuals, our economy, and our democracy, and it is, quote, reminiscent of actions taken by authoritarian governments. Oh, other than that, they're big fans of it. Bill C-10. Now, you see these talking heads on television and showing up at these meetings. These people are in the government-funded culture business. Music, film, and generally these are the types of people who are experts in applying for government grants to fund their artistic endeavors. Call me crazy. I have watched this all unfold. That's who these folks are. These folks who are willing to go to the mat in defense of such a bogus piece of legislation. And what they're saying is Netflix, YouTube, Prime, TikTok, Twitch, all of them, you must show Canadians a Canadian option, Canadian content. You must give them the option of seeing Canadian content. It's called discoverability. There must be discoverability. And remember, the Canadian content must pass the government smell test of what being Canadian is, what Canadian storytelling should be in the eyes of the government of the day. It has to, in other words, check off a lot of the same boxes that governments like to see checked off when one applies for government funding for the arts. Andrew Coyne this week in the Globe and Mail called it cultural nationalism. It's beyond absurd that we're even entertaining this. For example, why do people listen to this show? Is it because they're forced to? Is it because it was suggested by government legislation? Or because, you know what? It's a pretty darn good radio show. That's why. Why would we try to do the same thing with online platforms? And why would any government defend it as virtuous? It makes no sense to me. And yet I still have my own show, The Rob Snow Show, on City News.
Opening a business especially in a pandemic, in that kind of situation, is very challenging. First, people don't know me, people don't know my product. To build a new clientele, to build a trust for them, to show them that I care about it. I do love my food. That was the biggest challenge. And of course, in all lockdown, where I had to face it regards my employee, guests, ladies, what they work for me, I didn't want to tell them, sorry, I'm closed, I'm not having a job for you. No, they have families, they have kids to feed. So this is very important because we are family orientated. And we decided to open. We, of course, essential business. So been very tough, very, very tough, as we didn't see people on the road. Market was completely quiet, but we knew it that we have to wait, and we knew it that we're gonna be fine. In this town, we built online shop, Vedel Online, and we did Uber Eats, which one is picking up and is very, very popular. We have a really good feedback. So this is the song for my heart. And yeah, and we try to expand. I'm thinking about opening another location. So I want to make Vedel famous. I want to make the Vedel place to be for all the families with kids. Try the traditional food, what the grandparents cooked in the countries when they're from, or even Canadian people. They're more than welcome to come and try our famous pierogis. I try to be passionate about my food, organic food, food made with love, with all homemade, organic. So you can find food from all over the Europe: Polish, German, Ukrainian, Romanian, French, Armenian. So all kind of different types of food. Homemade lunches. We focus on the homemade lunches, grandma style. I keep always saying, like in my Genia Babcia house, how she cooked. I wanted this love and this food over here because I believe that would bring all people around me. And yeah, all the organic cold cuts, lovely selection of sausages, cheeses, European cheeses, great selections of mustards, French cookies. All what you need from Europe you can find here at the Vedel Touch of Europe. If you think good way, that's it. You have to, I had the option to cry in the corner and say, oh, pandemic is coming. No, you need to stand up and fight for it and have your eyes open, think outside of the box and do it.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
COVID is airborne. COVID-19 is airborne. Not everyone used to agree on that. But now there is acceptance of that. COVID is airborne by the World Health Organization and the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And for more on why that matters, we are joined by Dr. Jennifer McDonald, the Ottawa Hospital Rehab Center Division of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation. Good morning.
Hi there.
Yeah, it's nice to hear from you again, Doctor. Tell us about the evolution of this thinking. COVID is airborne. What's the discussion been like around that?
Yeah, so it's obviously been a long, I guess, road or story over the last year and a half, and there have been many people who've thought it's been airborne from day one. But as we've gathered more and more research and information and studies, we're getting more and more of the kind of mainstream public health officials and some of the infectious disease community getting on board with that reality, which is nice to see.
Okay. How does that change the way we should think about how we fight back against COVID-19?
And I think I might have mentioned this on your show in January. I can't remember, but I think a good way to think about COVID-19 spread is like cigarette smoke. Okay. So we know that, it doesn't change how the virus spreads or, it's not like all of us are going to get sick now that we're saying it's airborne. I think it's important that we're not afraid of that term, because what we've realized is that probably a lot of respiratory diseases are airborne, including the flu, and it's really just a question of how contagious it is, but that doesn't change the fact that it's transmitting in the air. So if we think about it like smoke, basically you're most at risk still close to a person, and imagine if somebody was blowing their cigarette smoke directly in your face. Obviously, that's a high concentration of particles that you're inhaling, and you're at most at risk there. As soon as you move away from them a meter or two, the smoke is going to dilute in the room, and if you're outside, it's going to dilute very quickly, and you won't breathe in much smoke at all. Okay. So outdoors is certainly safer.
Safer. Yeah.
Sorry?
Safer, yeah. Safer outdoors, certainly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the other thing to think about is an indoor environment that does poor ventilation. So even if you're more than a meter away from someone, if that smoke is allowed to accumulate, imagine an old bar that, you're still allowed to smoke inside with poor ventilation, you're going to go home kind of smelling of smoke all over your clothes by the end of the night because it's lingering in the air and accumulating. So that's the situation where we haven't really addressed, is that shared indoor air risk. We're still good at, promoting distancing. We're good at promoting staying outside, but we haven't really addressed the risk of sharing air in indoor spaces.
Yeah, I also think we're very good at wiping things down. Wiping down workspaces and wiping down shopping carts and wiping down, the cashier wipes down the checkout area of the aisle. All of this wipe down. But I also think about wipe everything down. But what about the stuff that's in the air? How do you fight against that? Right. So then you're into heating and ventilation systems, right? It's a filtration.
Yep. issue. Absolutely. And that wiping down effect, we call that hygiene theater. And it's important just to bring up that it's not without risk in itself. A lot of those chemicals we're wiping down are actually emitting chemicals into the air that you can then inhale, and they can cause asthma and a whole host of long-term effects. So I do worry about all these people who are being forced to wipe down all these surfaces literally every 5 minutes all day long. But yes, where we should be focusing more is cleaning our air through improve. So really the kind of a good way to think about it is how can we make our indoor spaces more like the outdoors? So we need to bring in more fresh air, exhaust the kind of used air that people are breathing out. And if you're not able to bring in all the fresh air, then the recirculated air you want to filter that air either through HEPA filters, portable HEPA filters, or through the filtration unit within your HVAC system.
Okay. Here's a quote from a recent study, 39 scientists, 14 countries. A paradigm shift is needed on the scale that occurred when Chadwick's sanitary report in 1842 led the British government to encourage cities to organize clean water supplies and centralized sewage systems. No one takes responsibility for the air. It's kind of accepted that the air could be of whatever quality, containing viruses and pathogens. So do you agree that there needs to be kind of this light bulb moment, Doctor, where we need to sort of change our whole thinking about air quality, indoor air quality?
Yep, absolutely. I do agree. And I think I use that analogy as well. It's that whole the sanitary reformers in the 1800s. They, when they went to their city councils and said, oh, guys, cholera is being spread through the contaminated water systems. We need to separate our sewage system and our fresh water, our drinking water. They can't be mixing. That's obviously gross to think about that's how it was back then.
Yeah.
It would have been a huge expense and a huge feat to actually redesign the water systems of these little towns and cities to separate them. So in the same way, you think about the air we're breathing in some of these buildings without mechanical ventilation or poor mechanical ventilation, we're all breathing in the same air. And in the same way, if you really think about it, it is kind of gross. So being able to optimize that in our buildings makes a lot of sense. And I wouldn't be surprised if we could really improve, productivity at work, less sick days from respiratory viruses. That science article, I think, ran some of the numbers, and they certainly think that financially and economically it makes sense to do that.
Okay. When you think about the current, say, stay-at-home orders and lockdown measures that are in effect right now, do you think they take into account sufficiently, pardon me, the fact that COVID-19 is airborne?
I don't. I think we often, sometimes they'll shut down the parks, and then they, shut down the golf courses, and then they, allow some workplace to stay open that has poor ventilation, and they allow these apartment outbreaks to basically balloon, like the one in Hamilton's, over 200 cases in 3 apartment buildings. And nobody has actually looked at the ventilation system. I believe they did ask the owners of the building to look at their own ventilation system, but when these inspectors go into these workplaces and into these apartment building outbreaks, they're not bringing an engineer in or an HVAC specialist to actually look at things. And if you do look, you find all sorts of issues. And all sorts of very worrisome air patterns of flow and lack of fresh air. So it's frustrating for sure to go wave after wave, and then we open up again, but we still don't address the shared air risk. So guess what? There's going to be another wave. Hopefully the vaccination and the warmer weather is going to prevent it from getting completely out of control again. But we've really taken a very convoluted approach to managing this pandemic, in my opinion, just allowing these waves to go on without actually making any changes. We're basically just keeping an entire toolbox locked up, which is how can we improve the air that we're inhaling.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you so much, Doctor. Great to hear from you today.
No problem.
Yeah, Dr. Jennifer McDonald from the Ottawa Hospital. Professor Ian Lee, Carleton University, his weekly appearance right after our newscast here on City News.
local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, May 18th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 18 degrees. In Smith Falls, 19. And here's what's making news this hour. Those 18 and over who register for their COVID-19 vaccine, as the provincial portal opened this morning at 8 o'clock, range in appointment times from just a couple of weeks from now to just over a month. Police have closed off a section of eastbound Hunt Club for a time this morning. That has reopened just east of Riverside after a shooting left two men with non-life-threatening injuries. Police are asking for any witnesses to this 5:15 shooting this morning near Paul Benoit. If they have any information, they could pass it along to police or Crime Stoppers, especially if they saw a blue car leaving that scene. City police also looking for help. They're trying to find a missing 15-year-old. Jessica Yates left her Barhaven home sometime between 11:30 last night and 3 o'clock this morning. Now, she is described by police as Indigenous, 5 feet 2 inches tall, with a small build. Last seen, Jessica was wearing a lime green Under Armour hoodie with blue Keen running shoes and carrying a gray tote. Her family is concerned for her safety. If you spot her or know where she is, you're asked to contact Ottawa Police. City News Time at 9:32. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Returns with Professor Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning, Rob.
Well, let's start with a good local story because some listeners have said they want to hear from you on this. Montreal Road is undergoing this big development right now. It's like $60-something million, new pavement, water mains, sewer mains, the whole thing. And, and part of it is a community improvement fund, like a business improvement fund. You can apply for a grant. The city will help your business. Mark Motors, been there a long time, dealer of fine German automobiles, including Porsche, applied for a $2.9 million grant. It's up for a vote at the FedCo committee today. We'll see what happens. But it's caused a great deal of backlash. A lot of people say the city has no business giving money to a high-end automotive dealer, and then they can think of 100 different things to spend that money on. What do you think?
When I first saw the story, Rob, I really did think this is a Monty Python skit. This has got to be. This is so ridiculous. It is so absurd. This is the same council that declared a climate emergency in Ottawa. We're all going to die, I guess, of global warming in Ottawa.
10 years to save the world. 10 years to save the world.
Okay, 10 years. We're going to die in 10 years then. Okay. And they use the word emergency. They didn't say, okay, look, we got a problem, the world's warming up. It is. We got to, make some adjustments over time. No. Emergency. A house is on fire is an emergency, Yep. And then they turn around after telling us with a straight face there's a climate emergency in Ottawa. Oh, let's throw millions of dollars of taxpayer money to a private successful dealership. I know Mark Motors. They've been there a very long time. Good company.
Yeah.
Very profitable, I understand. They've been there a long time in business.
60 years.
Selling very expensive cars.
Yes.
The kind of cars, by the way, you find in the most privileged neighborhoods of Ottawa. And I'm very serious.
Like the Glebe.
Oh, the Glebe, Sandy Hill.
Not in your part of the Glebe, but, in the good part of the Glebe. Right?
Let's stop picking just on the Glebe. What about, because there's a
Westboro.
How about Westboro? You drive through Westboro. My goodness me, Audis.
And sure. Plus, and can you really tell these days, Professor, when you leave Mechanicsville and enter Westboro, isn't it all kind of Porscheville now?
Don't leave out New Edinburgh.
Oh, New Edinburgh.
Yeah. Okay, Old Ottawa South.
Yeah.
The Carleton professors.
Alta Vista.
Sandy Hill, the Ottawa U professors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. A, there's a climate emergency. Well, I don't believe there's a climate emergency. I'll get to that in a moment.
Right.
But that's their claim. Their claim is that.
Okay.
And secondly, they've been claiming that COVID devastated the finances of Ottawa. I've heard the mayor say that. Oh my goodness, we're in very deep shape, very bad shape, And then thirdly, they want to give money to a private for-profit company, which is fine. I'm very pro private for-profit companies, but if they're going to give it to that dealership, well, what about all the other Honda dealerships? What about all the...
if they're in Vanier, they can apply. They can apply if they're in Vanier.
I'm saying if we're going to start giving money to a particular business, why not everybody in that class of business? Why not all automotive? It's City of Ottawa money. It's not Vanier.
I know, but okay.
But let's be very clear, Rob. When they say, well, it's Vanier. No. It is City of Ottawa tax revenues. What I read the audited financial report, which I do, of the city, it does not say the City of Vanier audited report and the City of Rockcliffe and the City of the Glebe. It doesn't say that. No. There is one consolidated entity, and it's called the City of Ottawa, and we all pay taxes to a common city entity. And then City Council represents all of us. Just, in Canada, it's pointless saying, well, they're down east, and so there's special something for them. They're part of Canada. The Maritimes is part of Canada. Quebec is part of Canada. And Ontario is part of Canada. And in Ottawa, we are all paying taxes. I pay obscene taxes, by the way. Full disclosure, I pay $10,000 a year. Okay. And I have nobody in the school system. And the snow removal's awful, truly awful, really. Okay. I don't want to get
nobody goes to school, and you get lousy snow removal, and you're paying $10,000 a year in tax.
That's and they've rejigged the water bills, everybody, so that if you're in the inner city, like where I am, the core, you pay a higher base rate than the identical consumption of water in the burbs. You could say, well, they're wealthier and they should, but I'm just pointing this out.
Yeah. And how much has your house gone up in value over the last year?
Because of our urban councillors and trying to limit the urban growth.
You're a real estate millionaire. You're a real estate millionaire.
And right? I don't want to be. Right? I've never asked them to turn us in the urban core from millionaires.
Anyway, we're getting a little off track here.
Okay. But my point is, resources are scarce.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And they claim there's a climate emergency.
Yes.
And the third point is, why on earth are they picking winners and losers? Why are they saying Mark Motors, that sells German fancy cars, gets free money from the taxpayer, but say the Lexus dealer doesn't, or the GM dealer?
Well, if the Lexus dealer's in Vanier, maybe the Lexus.
No.
They've said they've identified. They have identified. Just let me finish here. They have identified communities where they think there needs to be some more economic development. And Vanier's one, Bell's Corners is another one. Okay. Now some of the facts here from Kate Porter's story. Okay. Mm-hmm. It would be a $17 million building, beautiful looking building. Mm-hmm. Just the fees to the city, building permits and development fees, $1.7 million. And then the property taxes for this site would go from $25,000 a year to $355,000 a year. So the company said, we'll probably hire some more people. The city's going to make 10 times more in property tax than it's making now. This is all good. It's in the name of economic jobs and economic development.
Since when was it the role of the City of Ottawa to tell what businesses to build, where to build their business, how to build their business, how big to build the building, on what street to build the building? That is not the role of government. Period. Full stop. These councillors are straight out of central planning of the Soviet Union. I really mean that. Right. They think that their job is to make these decisions about, quote, economic growth. Look, if Mark Motors thinks it's a good deal to put a business there, to put a retail auto place there, they will. Just as other auto dealers have built locations on Maryville Road or on Hunt Club West, et cetera, et cetera. It's not the role of government. One of the reasons that Jim Watson pushed the tax rate from 2 to 3 after promising, I will not do that. Yes, he then changed and re-ran on that. But the point is, one of the reasons they need 3% is because they are squandering scarce resources on silly, unnecessary purposes. And there's no need for this. If the business is profitable, they will locate there. And if it isn't, then like Lansdowne Park, they'll come back and put their hand out and say, look, you subsidized us to go there. It turned out not to be a good deal. Turned out we're losing money. Now you got to subsidize us because we're losing money. This is the kind of nuttiness of our commissars on city council.
Okay. Now, I pointed out, this is up for the FedCom committee today. it's not even the only proposal of its kind. This happens all the time under brownfields programs here in the city. And I pointed out too today, the Somerset West, LeBreton Street North, plans for a 9-story residential tower. Developer qualifies for more $520,000 in brownfields funding to clean up the site. Another one, Scott Street, close to the LRT, 26 stories. 4 stories, 336 units. Okay.
Now do
10
people
minutes,
understand?
10, 15 minutes away from Parliament Hill.
Now do people understand why the taxes have gone to 3%?
$500,000 in brownfields money. Should all of this is all to promote development. Should
it's
it
not
all
their job to promote development? The growth is there because the population is growing.
Right.
It's growing because of immigration, and it's an attractive city to live in.
Sure. Yeah.
And we do not need. I mean, they're just.
So we do away with all of it. We don't need. Money. Well, we have a contaminated plot of land. We'll pay for part of the bill to help you clean it up if you develop it.
I want to distinguish, Rob, between public goods and private goods, which is a classic distinction in economics going back 300 years.
All right.
Okay, a public good, national defense is a public good. Okay, you don't expect the private sector to run the military. Environment itself. Is a public good. Clean air is a public good. A private house is not a public good. People can't live in my house. I own it. It's mine, and I can deny anybody to come into my house.
Get out of my house.
Okay, so a private good is privately owned and privately purchased. And this is, Nobel Prizes have been awarded in this. I'm not making this up, okay? And so government historically, literally back to the time of Adam Smith until now, government role is to engage in so-called public goods where the market cannot develop it, a so-called market failure. Okay, the market won't develop private militaries because it just isn't economic. So the private sector's job is to build private-for-profit businesses that sell private goods to private individuals, cars, bank account services, etc., apartment buildings, housing, etc. The role of government is to go in and deal with public goods. So if there's a site where no one will clean it up because the owner that dirtied the site and polluted the site is long gone because the company went bankrupt 20 or 30 years ago, that's a legitimate expenditure of public funds because there is a public good involved. That we're not talking here about public goods. We're talking about the council with too much money on their hands, picking and choosing winners by privileging and giving money to one competitor that the other dealerships across town that also pay City of Ottawa taxes are not getting.
Okay.
So this is a conflict of interest, and it is unfair. They talk about social justice and fairness.
Sure.
It is unfair when you give public funds to one private individual for his business or her business and not to others. You're running into all kinds of social equity or equity issues. That's not the role of government. And I'm not saying let's downsize and shut down the government. The government's there to regulate, yes, level playing field for sure, but their job is not, it's to referee the hockey game.
You and all the lefties are in agreement this week. It's one of those rare weeks, okay?
What's that?
You and all the lefties around the council table actually agree on this. They're as outraged as you are, okay?
The referee should not be telling the Sidney Crosby when to shoot the puck, how fast to shoot the puck, or how often to shoot the puck. And they shouldn't be owning one of the hockey teams. The referees are supposed to be completely neutral. They wear the stripes.
Look, when we come back, I want to get your take on Bill C-10. I want to get the big new report out from the International Energy Agency on what it would actually take to get to net zero by 2050. So lots to talk about. Professor Ian Lee is here from the Sprott School at Carleton University. This is City News.
So the birth of Absinthe was 2002, I think, 2003, and I was working at Urban Bistro, happily, where Allium is now. And then this space where Holland Cafe was came up. It's on the corner of Spencer and Holland. And I spoke to the landlord, and there's a lot of interest from a lot of other people, but he and I just, got along super well, and he put a lot of faith in me. So Carmen Turner is his name. He gave me the lease to the place and really pretty much gave me all the equipment in the place. So I was really lucky I've been really lucky with landlords that way, actually, both my current landlord and Carmen Turner, because if there hadn't been Carmen Turner, there wouldn't have been Absinthe. So we were there for a few years and just sort of outgrew the place, and then now we're here. It's obviously been tough, and it's been tough for everyone. I mean, that's the, been the big democratic sweep of, like, in restaurants and the hospitality and the arts that we were talking about earlier. It's like everybody's been impacted pretty much the same. From everybody that I talked to, we're down 80%. We're climbing out now. I think one of the saddest things is like we went down to 2 employees from 25, and we're now at 4, and we're bringing 2 new people on this week, so we'll be at 6. So it's little steps. So it's been tough. It's I've got the most expensive clubhouse ever here, because some days you come and you don't do any business, but you're here. But I'm grateful for what I do have. I think everybody's optimistic now, not necessarily just about the vaccine, but about like the vaccine, spring, being able to be outside. I think you're going to see a lot of like pop-up things happen in parking lots and on sidewalks and like that, rather than being actually inside somebody's commerce. I think we'd like to take it outside. I know my staff would. My staff like the outdoors now, all of a sudden, all 4 of us. 6 soon. But we'll be doing some business in the patio in the parking lot, and we have a patio out front. And I hope other restaurants and stores will do the same. I hope that they take advantage of like the sidewalk and doing sort of, guerrilla marketing and stuff like that, and really shaking it up a bit. You can find us at Absinthe Cafe at 1208 Wellington Street West in Hintonburg, and you can find us online at absinthecafe.ca.
Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News 101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
All right, it's your choice, Professor. Do you want to talk about getting to net zero by the year 2050, or do you want to talk about Bill C-10? Because both
I want to
are
talk
in the
about
news.
both, but let's talk about net zero 2050.
All right, okay.
Because we are being presented, and let's be clear, I completely agree in global warming. I agree it's a reality, it's empirical, the data is very clear. But I think that we have been sold a pile of horse feathers, of nonsense. This is a fraud. And I know some environmentalists will say, oh, that's nasty and lean. Net Zero 2050, as the IEA, very prestigious. It's a UN agency. It's funded by the Western governments. It's in Paris. It's not run by corporations. And they said, we can get to Net Zero 2050 if absolutely no new oil projects anywhere in the world are started. Everyone says, okay, yeah, nod your head and say, that sounds pretty fair. Does everybody know, and this is from an environmental site and from the IEA, does everybody know that there are over 300 coal power plants being built around the world in 2020? China started more coal plants in 2020 than the entire world on planet Earth retired. In other words, we are the world, we the world, are creating more and more coal plants around the world, in the developing world, by the way, okay, in the developing world, okay, then anywhere. And they're talking about stopping new oil projects. What a joke. What a joke. China is the #1 emitter, and I'm not against China. I love going to China, okay? But it's the #1 emitter in the world. It's almost 30% of the totality of the world's CO2 emissions. No, you won't hear that from one environmentalist or one minister of the Trudeau cabinet. Canada's 1.6. China's 30%. And China is building dozens and dozens and dozens of coal. Why am I focusing on coal? Coal is way dirtier than oil. And they're talking about, well, if we shut down all the new oil projects in the world from now on, forever and ever, everything's going to be hunky-dory. Goodness gracious. We're building, we the world, China especially, are building dozens and dozens and dozens of coal plants. I'm talking net new coal plants. Right now, as we speak, a total of 247 gigawatts, which is monstrously huge, of coal power is in planning or development in China. We are not going to get to net zero 2050 for the world. We're going to blow past. We're not going to meet the Paris Accords of 2030. Mr. Trudeau is blowing smoke. Ain't going to happen empirically when you look at the global numbers. And they will not tell that truth. They tell us we've got a climate emergency in Ottawa, we've got a climate emergency in Canada. No, if there is a climate emergency, it's in China. But they won't say that because he's buddy-buddy, and he's been very favorable towards the Chinese government for a very long time.
Yes, he has.
He doesn't want to criticize them publicly.
Yep.
So he says he implies, he doesn't say it, but he implies that Canada is the culprit. It's Canada, bad Canada. All 38 million of us, 1.6% of world global emissions. I'm not saying we shouldn't do anything. I'm saying let's try talking truth to power and speaking honestly with the Canadian people and truthfully and say, look, everybody, we don't have a snowball's chance in hell of getting to net zero 2050 because China is building enormous numbers of coal-powered plants, not only in China, but in other countries around the world.
I should say this report is not from some fly-by-night organization. This is the International Energy Agency out of Paris, right?
But so everybody understands what they said. They said, if, then. Well, sure. And if I didn't get old and if I didn't get sick one day and I didn't die, I'd still be alive. And if I won a lottery, I'd be rich. If.
Yeah.
So what they're saying is, if, the world stops developing any new oil projects.
Oil and gas,
Oil and gas.
Yeah.
We can get there. And not a whisper, a hint of the fact that coal, which is vastly worse than oil or gas, is being expanded.
Yeah, it says in the report, in the report, no new coal-fired generating stations should be built unless they include technology to capture carbon. That's what it says.
Look at the carbon increase from China and India. I'm not going to just pick on China.
Yeah.
Southeast Asia is building coal plants at an unprecedented level. And here we are trying to shut down a pipeline and saying it's going to make a difference to the world, whether it's the Keystone or Line 5. They're gas pipelines, which is the cleanest of the fossil fuels. That's what's even more offensive about it, the environmentalist rhetoric on this. They're not speaking truth to us. Coal is the filthiest of the dirtiest of the filthy. And not a squeak or a whisper from Mr. Trudeau about China. And yet we got to shut down a natural gas line. Gas is the cleanest of all the fossil fuels.
Right. So you think the very idea that we're going to be net zero on carbon emissions by 2050, not going to happen. Okay. All right, let's move along because we don't have that much time left, and I do want to have your latest thinking on Bill C-10. They're going to pass it. The Liberals, the New Democrats in the bloc they've made a backroom deal, and they're gonna limit debate on the bill. They're gonna shut down debate on the bill, and get it done. Then they're gonna pass it as is. So, what do you think? What worries you about this?
I just think this is madness. I really do. I mean, my views are identical basically to Andrew Coyne, and not because he wrote them. I've been thinking this, and then he writes these remarkable analyses, and he crystallizes and puts into writing and in a very clear English all of my objections. The idea that we're regulating the internet is just absolutely nutty. The idea that I am less Canadian if I watch an American show is just absolutely idiocy. And conservatives, I hear all kinds of people saying, well, what can they do to differentiate themselves? How can they run against the Trudeau Liberals? It's really easy. Choose the most offensive and disgraceful policies of the Liberals, and this has got to be at the top of the list. I'm talking Bill C-10, and say, if we're elected, we're going to avoid this bill and start over.
Okay, so let's use an example. Let's say you like a good cop drama or something, an American cop show, Chicago PD or something like that, and you like to stream it through your streaming account.
Yeah.
Under Bill C-10, I assume Prime or Netflix or whoever carries that particular series would have to pop up and say, we see that you like this particular type of show. Here's a Canadian show that's kind of like that. Would you like to watch this? It's called Discoverability. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with
it? It is not the role of the government to tell me what to think or what to watch or what to see or do. I actually wrote an op-ed about 6 years ago on this, long before Bill C-10. And it was dealing with this very question of what is the role of government in broadcasting and so forth. And it inevitably involved the CBC. And I said some things that really upset some conservatives. I said, look, paradoxically, because I said the government should not be telling us what to do or trying to even influence us about what we should watch. If they want us to watch Canadian content, increase the funding, I said, to the CBC, which really upset some conservatives. And I said, let them build it, and if we want to watch it, we will come. Build it and they will come. Maybe, maybe not. I said, it is absolutely not the role to regulate any Canadian content whatsoever. Canadian content, CanCon, should be abolished, and let the 38 million or 30 million or however many Canadians that watch television and broadcasting, let them decide what they will watch. If they want to watch Hulu or want to watch Amazon Prime Video or Netflix, that's their choice. And let the CBC run endless stories and programs about the Maritimes or whatever, Canadian stories, CanCon, and let the Canadian content be CBC becomes the sole carrier of Canadian content.
I need another Lucy Maud Montgomery series. I haven't had one of those in a while.
They should not be telling us or trying to tell us what to watch. If we want to watch American junk, that's fine. I like watching British stories, historical dramas.
Right.
That's my choice.
Of course.
And if Mr. Guilbeault doesn't like it, that's just too bad for Mr. Guilbeault.
Okay. Well, you're very opinionated this week.
No, it's just that this one,
as opposed to all the other weeks.
We're getting right into the area of, it's coming.
Well, Coyne calls it cultural nationalism.
It's worse than that. This is the kind of thinking that permeates Putin's Russia and China.
Yeah.
That they have a superior understanding of what the people should watch or see or read on the net and in broadcasting. And I just find it deeply, deeply offensive on every level. And I hope that the conservatives can find themselves in what they believe in and come out against it.
Are you carrying a pitchfork right now? Do you All right. We'll talk to you next week, okay? Bye-bye. Okay. All right, Professor Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. Talkback Hour coming up next. Good topic for you. 750-1310. It's the call-in line. Let me set up the topic for you right after Andrew's newscast here on City News.
local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, May 18th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, it's 19 degrees. In Smiths Falls, also 19. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. As the province opened up COVID-19 vaccination appointments earlier this morning to anyone 18 years of age or older, Ottawa's mayor is trying to reassure people that they will get their shot, even if they can't book one of these particular appointments. Here's City News reporter Jason White.
Today, all Ontarians 18 and older are eligible to book a COVID-19 vaccine appointment, regardless of their postal code, occupation, or health conditions. This comes about a week ahead of schedule, after Ontario received more doses of the vaccine this week than it was expecting. Ottawa's mayor is trying to reassure people, saying that if vaccine appointments run out today in Ottawa, more will be added soon. But Jim Watson says Ottawa Public Health can't add appointment times unless it has the vaccine doses from the province to back them up. The province says young people between 12 and 17 years of age will be the next group eligible. They'll be able to book their vaccine appointments beginning the week of May 31st. Jason White, City News.
City News time, 10:02. The first made in Canada vaccine for COVID-19 could be approved for use later this summer. By that point, most Canadians will have at least one shot, so it's not clear how the Medicago vaccine might be used. The company is in talks with the federal government now on the drug's possible use as a second dose. Ottawa police closed a portion of Hunt Club for a time after an early morning shooting. Police say the shooting happened near Paul Benoit Drive, so that's east of Riverside. Now, 2 males were shot around 5:15 this morning, both expected to survive, but police are asking for witnesses, including anyone who saw a blue Honda Civic speeding away in the westbound lanes on Hunt Club. Anyone with information is asked to contact Ottawa Police or Crime Stoppers. Police also asking for assistance as they try to find a missing teen, 15-year-old Jessica Yates. Left her home in Barrhaven sometime between 11:30 last night and 3 o'clock this morning. Her family is concerned for her safety and well-being. Jessica is described as Indigenous, 5'2", with a small build. She has chin-length black hair and was wearing a lime green Under Armour hoodie, blue Keen running shoes, and carrying a gray tote. We do have a picture of Jessica up at ottawa.citynews.ca. Natural Resource Minister Seamus O'Regan says if Michigan's governor is successful in shutting down the Enbridge Line 5 pipeline, it would be messy, expensive, and cause more pollution. That's because it could take a couple of months or longer to find alternative shipping methods, and that in the meantime, oil and natural gas would have to be loaded onto 18-wheelers. Governor Gretchen Whitmer is worried that a leak in that line that runs between Michigan and Ontario would cause an environmental catastrophe. City News time, 10:04. Israeli authorities have announced deaths from a Gaza militant strike.
Police say a strike launched from Gaza has killed 2 Thai workers inside a packaging plant in southern Israel, as Israel and Gaza's Hamas rulers continue to trade attacks. A rescue service says it transported another 7 wounded people to the hospital after the projectile attack. It comes as Palestinians across Israel and the occupied territories go on strike in a rare collective action against Israel's policies. With the war in Gaza showing no sign of abating, the general strike could again widen the conflict after a spasm of communal violence in Israel and protests across the occupied West Bank last week. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
And I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
Here's my question for you this morning. Tuesday Talk Back Hour. Want to kind of do it rapid poll style. In Ontario, what can safely reopen right now? In Ontario, what can safely reopen right now? Right now. Here it is, the 18th day of May, okay? In Ontario, what can safely reopen right now? And here are some possible answers. Well, I have three of them. Some things can reopen. Some things, like golf courses. Some things can reopen. Nothing can reopen. Nothing. Variants. We had Dr. Manuel on yesterday, very concerned about the transmissibility of variants, particularly the Indian variant. So nothing can reopen right now. We have to stay locked down just like we are right now, or everything. Okay, everything. Do you think everything can reopen right now? Let's call it quits. End this lockdown right now. Hey, I just want to know where you are. Okay, in Ontario, what can safely reopen right now? Some things, and if so, what? Okay. If so, what? Golf courses. Everything? Do you think everything can reopen? I don't think we're there just yet. Or nothing because of the unknowns with the variants. And everything should stay as it stands right now with the stay-at-home order, the state of emergency, the lockdown until June 2nd, when this latest version of the stay-at-home order, state of emergency lockdown, is set to expire in a couple of weeks' time. So let's get going here. 750-1310. Is the call-in line. I'm keeping score here. See, it says 1, 2, 3. It says some things, everything, or nothing. I want to know what way you're leaning. 750-1310, 613-750-1310, 750-1310. Email therobsnowshow at ottawa.citynews.ca. This is what I was thinking this morning. Does everything that's closed now really have to be closed? That's what I was thinking right now. So I want to know what way you're leaning. I want to know if you have any ideas. Are there things closed that really don't need to be closed, that really shouldn't be closed? What's closed that you think we could safely reopen? I'd love to hear from you. We have a little bit more than 2 weeks to go in this current lockdown. And there's no guarantee. Look, there's no guarantee that Doug Ford is actually going to end the lockdown in 2 weeks' time. I hope that the situation is much improved by June 2nd, but there's no guarantee that it will be. Things could get worse. Who knows? I'm not hoping that they get worse. I want them to get a lot better. So I want to hear from you this morning at 750-1310, 750-1310, 613-750-1310. Email the Rob Snow Show, ottawa.citynews.ca. I mean, golf gets a lot of coverage. Golf is getting a lot of coverage, and some people, they poo-poo that. They suggest golf is a game of the privileged few and all this stuff. That's not how I see it. I look at golf, and I see an activity that can be a lot of fun. For me, it's usually a long walk spoiled, but golf is also a big business. Okay, billions of dollars, 100,000 jobs, employs a lot of young people during the summer. And here in the National Capital Region, I mean, East Ontario, West Quebec, we're a little golf mad in this part of the country. We love the game of golf. We have lots of golf courses. There used to be an estimate 75 golf courses within an hour's drive of downtown Ottawa. Here we have every single one of them closed. Beautiful weather this week. It's brutal. I know Doug Ford, he talks about his buddies, and his buddies, they go play golf and then they go for pops and all this stuff. To me, though, this decision on golf, and I'm not going to belabor it, but I mean, it's the very same as the decision to close the ski hills in the winter. Just another whopper from the Ford government that is not backed by science. They're playing golf everywhere else in the world except Ontario. That is how bad Doug Ford's buddies are. They're ruining it for everybody. They can shut down an entire industry with friends like that, right? But it's about a lot more than golf. So many things close beyond the golf course. Tennis, pickleball, picnics. I looked it up this morning. I mean, the list. Everything that is closed, everything you can't do in Ontario right now. It is a very lengthy list, but does it have to be that long? So again, I come back to my question. In Ontario, what can safely reopen right now? Some things can open. Okay, if that's your thinking, what is that thing that can safely reopen right now? Nothing? Too much unknown? variants, increased transmissibility of variants, like the Indian variant, or everything. Everything. We can open everything. Do you really think that we can reopen I don't think we can reopen everything. But I would like to know what you're thinking, okay? Diane. Good morning. Diane from Stittsville.
Oh, hi, Rob.
Hi, Diane.
Yes, open up something. I can't go walking with friends. I can't have them sitting under a tree, even if we're 6 feet apart, or on my driveway. And I think that people should be able to go golfing and play tennis and put their masks on at the end of the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
So some things. Some things. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Some
Bye.
things. Some things. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna keep score here. That's one for some things can reopen. 750-1310, 750-1310. What in Ontario can safely reopen right now? Something, everything, nothing? What do you think? Sharon in Ottawa. Sharon.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Sharon.
I think everything, but with caution.
Everything.
I'm not an anti-masker. I'm not.
Okay.
I believe that the distancing helps. We need to start using some sanity, though. You can't explain to me why I can go to one store and it's okay, but I can't go to another store. It just. They get to decide what is a necessity. Well, maybe a pair of shoes is a necessity. It's just gone way, way, way too far. I understand the variants. I understand that they're more transmissible. But on the other hand, the vaccinations are being done every day.
Yes, they are. Yep.
So to me, with caution.
Okay.
Get things open.
With caution.
Every day I talk to people who are in business. I just found one nearby.
You think
today.
dining rooms could open? Dining rooms?
You know what? Yeah.
Yeah?
We're not, my husband and I aren't ones to go to a restaurant.
Right.
But
right.
During the periods when the restaurants were open, we went because it was just so nice to go out and be normal.
Sure.
And it did us good mentally. It helped the restaurants. The safety measures that the restaurants took were unbelievable.
Movie theaters? What about movie theaters? Things like movie theaters.
With spacing.
Right. Could you have a rock concert?
Maybe not yet.
Maybe not yet. Okay.
But,
all right.
Or maybe outdoors.
Right. Or a hockey game,
Again.
Carolina Hurricanes hockey game, I believe, was sold out yesterday. Did you see that on video? Yeah.
You know what? They got vaccines.
Yeah.
There's the other subject.
All right. Okay. But pretty much everything you're saying.
With sensibility and caution.
Sensibility
but the problem is you've got too many people at the top in public health that, shut down everything. Keep everybody locked in their homes till this thing goes away. Well, it may not go away. And for people's mental health, I've got a 6-year-old granddaughter, and she thought her world was just, fantastic last week because she got to play with a friend for 2 hours. Okay. Now, that's wrong.
All right. Thank you.
That they're so isolated.
Gotcha, Sharon. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Very good. Very good. Okay, we'll stop here. First quarter in the books. We've had 2 calls here. Everything and something. So far, have not taken a call from someone who said nothing. We cannot open anything right now in the province of Ontario because there's just too much that's unknown about where we are with COVID-19 and the variants. I would like to know, again, asking you here during the talkback hour, what can safely reopen in Ontario right now? Some things. If so, what's that thing? Everything. Throw caution to the wind. Okay, I'm done with your abundance of caution or nothing. Nothing. Keep everything as it is until at least June 2nd and maybe beyond. 750-1310, Rob Snow Show, Talkback Hour on City News.
I always knew I was going to own my own business, and I've always wanted to have a store.
And I sort of figured when the right concept came together at the right time, I would move forward with that plan. And so through doing some environmental initiatives in the restaurant group that I was with prior to opening this store, it just triggered my path towards being more environmentally conscientious and wanting to make more of a difference, and hopefully encouraging, inspiring other people to want to do the same, at which point the idea for All Eco was born. I have some really fun products. I have a really wide spectrum of products. So the things we look for in terms of qualifying products are sustainably made, upcycled, recycled, zero waste, all natural, no harmful chemicals to like the environment or to our bodies. We have like fun stuff, so like really clean burning candles, lots of really natural body care and skin care. I put a real emphasis on Canadian products. I really try to support up and comers, and I always source Canada first. The refill bar is really important to me. It's really huge. I think that's been exciting as well, because I thought it was going to be a real process in convincing people that this is a better way to go. And actually it was just like right away there was a built-in affinity towards doing refill, which has been great. We closed, I think, probably we were closed down by before the second week of March. Just didn't feel we could comfortably or confidently stay open, even though I do sell essential products, like in terms of the cleaning. But we just didn't feel we could make a safe space for ourselves or our customers at that time, and especially with the information we had at the time. So we did close our doors, at which point I did not have a website, because that was I hadn't even scheduled myself to have a website at that point. So that was sort of like full speed moving towards that and trying to drive the business, at the same time still get myself on the map because I was so new. So during that time, as we were building the website, we were still doing a lot of video shopping and private shopping, online shopping, like online phone, text. Any way I could do business, I was doing it. And there was really a nice show of support for my business during that time, which was really, really encouraging. And now, we are fully set up online too.
Back
on the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
What can safely reopen right now? Safely, okay. Some things. If so, what are those things? Everything. Let's open everything. I don't think we're there yet. That's my opinion yet. But some things I think can reopen. Some people will say nothing. We don't know enough about the variants, increased transmissibility of variants like the Indian variants, and let's just keep things the way they are right now. 1,616 cases is the number for today. That is very encouraging, 1,616. But a small number of tests, though, 22,915 tests. 22,915 tests, 109,000 vaccines done yesterday, which is also on the low side. They've been pushing 150 a day, 150 grand a day on the vaccine front. Okay, back to the phones, 750-1310. Helen, good morning, Helen.
Good morning, Rob.
What can safely reopen right now in Ontario, if anything?
Some things for me would be the elementary schools.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And
in-class learning, good one.
In-class learning.
Okay.
Tennis, golf.
And golf.
Pet grooming.
Pet grooming, okay. Is that shut down right now, pet grooming?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay. I was not aware, okay. All right. So some things. Okay, thank you, Helen. Thank you. Yep. She always mentions school. Helen, big issue for her, trying to educate the little ones. Orleans, Sean, you're on City News. Sean, good morning, Sean.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Sean.
I'm first-time listener or long-time listener, first-time caller.
I appreciate that, Sean. What do you think? Can we close something, nothing, everything? What do we do?
Stick with nothing. I just keep hearing bad things out of India. I think they're up to a triple mutant now, maybe even a quadruple mutant, I guess.
Awesome.
So and I don't know if anybody's doing any testing on these mutants, or they even work with these vaccines. It took them, 6 months to, or maybe a little longer, I guess, to come out with the original vaccine. Can they not come out with testing on these new mutants to see if they actually work with what we got now? It'd be nice to get some details.
What's the rush, right? What's the rush? Get a few more people vaccinated,
get some
whatever.
Details and facts before you remove everything and then have Nina back with the fourth wave,
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, we had Dr. Doug Manuel on from the University of Ottawa yesterday. He's part of the science table. And maybe we'll get David to cue up the clip. I mean, he's quite worried about the Indian variant. Very transmissible, he said.
Yeah.
Very transmissible. So he's
and
quite
now
on
I think
edge
it's
about
triple
that.
now. There was double was the one that's here in Canada already. I don't know how many cases. I haven't heard any numbers on the amount of cases we have now, but it'd be nice to hear that number too. So to give people a kind of stark awakening.
Yes, a very good point. I heard on the way into work this morning the number one variant in the UK now is the Indian variant.
So it's overpopulating the UK, which is what ours is right now. I think most of our cases are UK variants.
Yeah,
It'd be interesting to see the number of the Indian variant.
Yeah. Thank you, Sean. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks.
And the Indian variant is in Quebec. That's in the media now. They're watching it in Quebec. They have it in Quebec. Mark, in Ottawa, what can safely reopen right now? Some things, everything, nothing? What do you think?
I think some things can open.
Okay, such as?
Restaurants.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think golf for sure. I mean, if 1,000 people can go to Dow's Lake and look at tulips, why can't 4 guys go and play golf when their tee times are 15 minutes apart?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's more people out in public than there is on golf courses.
All right. So that's, anything else? Golf courses? Yeah. Or is that a big one for you?
That's a big one for me.
You're missing it, are you?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You have a membership somewhere, or
no?
Just an avid golfer.
Just an avid golfer. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But blame Doug Ford's buddies and their pops.
Yeah. I got a couple of cases of pop waiting.
Okay. All right, Mark. Thank you. Okay. So there's a golfer. Yep. Open the golf courses. A man after your own heart, David. I was looking up, Dave. There's a long list of things you can't do. I was actually shocked when I reminded myself this morning what's off limits here under this stay-at-home order. Did you know if you were a bad boy and they threw you in the Innis Road jail, I couldn't even come and visit you?
No? You wouldn't even bail me out. I guess you could do it over the phone.
Well, I'd have to have a Zoom call bail hearing.
You would bail me out,
but I couldn't go visit you at the Innis Road jail.
That's tough.
And say, Dave, how you holding up in here, buddy?
Don't they have the plexiglass with the phones and stuff like you see in the movies? No.
No. No visiting at any provincial jail. Libraries are closed. Still, it's only curbside at the library. No branch of the Ottawa Public Library is allowed to have anybody inside. Long-term care homes that are outbreak-free are open to visitors. 1 visit per resident per week. Scheduled in advance. Wow. Ontario parks. Remember we were talking about Ontario, to get a campsite in Ontario Park is like a ticket in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, right?
It's easier to get a vaccine now than a campsite. Yeah.
Ontario parks are only open for day use right now.
Sure.
Overnight stays in Ontario parks continue to be closed, including campground and backcountry campsites and roofed accommodations such as cabins, cottages, and yurts.
Not the yurts.
And I say that only because I love saying that word.
Hands off my yurts.
Yurt. Okay. Back to it here. John in Ottawa. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Rob.
Thank you. What if anything, can safely reopen in Ontario right now?
Well, the fact is that we have City of Ottawa anyways, parks, and I'm assuming other city parks within the province are open as well. I can't see why you and I can't shoot some hoops in an outdoor court.
That's right. Basketball courts are closed right now, yeah.
I know. It's one of the reasons why I think the outdoor courts, one-on-one sporting events like tennis and basketball, I think that's perfectly reasonable to be opened.
Yeah, I have the list here on recreation, picnic sites and picnic tables, baseball diamonds, soccer fields, basketball courts, BMX parks, and skate parks, all closed.
Right. And so the difference between that and what I'm communicating in terms of what I'd like to see openers think should be open is one-to-one sports.
Right, okay.
So not like soccer, not like baseball.
Not like 3-on-3 pickup or something like that, right? Yeah.
Just one-on-one.
One-on-one.
Basketball, one-on-one tennis.
All right.
It's perfectly reasonable.
Perfectly reasonable. Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you,
John. Yeah, there's John has an idea there. Okay, so some things leading the way. Darlene, Alta Vista. Good morning, Darlene.
Good morning. How are you, Rob?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Well, I'm glad to hear. What can you're a first-time caller? Is that what you said?
Yes, I am.
Well, awesome.
And I think I have a different demographic than most of your callers.
Okay.
As a young mother of 3 young kids, 5 and under, I think my perspective is very different.
Okay.
You'll probably hear them in the background because they're all crying. But
that's okay.
I think schools should reopen. I have a 5-year-old in kindergarten, and she is a completely different child when schools are closed. She needs her school. And from my understanding from what Vera Etches has said, she said that transmission within schools is very rare. So the fact that we are causing children to be home and going through the mental health problems that we're seeing, I don't see is beneficial for them at all. So I think schools should reopen.
All right, Darlene. Thank you for the call. Thank you for the opinion. Greatly appreciated. We have reached halftime on the Talkback Hour. Some things, everything, or nothing. In Ontario, what can safely reopen right now? This is the Rob Snow Show Talkback Hour on City News.
News in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, May 18th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 20 degrees. In Smith Falls, 21. Here's what's making news this hour. Latest number from the province on COVID infection shows 1,616 new cases and 17 more deaths. That brings Canada's total number who have died from COVID now to 25,000. 56 of the new cases today are in Ottawa, 9 for Eastern Ontario. No new cases reported by the province in Leeds, Grenville, Lanark, and 1 additional case in Renfrew. The positivity in today's number, 7.6%. From just under 23,000 tests that were completed. Ottawa police asking for help finding a missing teen, 15-year-old Jessica Yates. Left her home in Barrhaven sometime between 11:30 last night and 3 o'clock this morning. Her family is concerned for her safety and well-being. We have her picture at ottawa.citynews.ca. If you spot her or know where she is, you're asked to contact Ottawa Police. We could have an update from the Prime Minister concerning the Made in Canada vaccine from Medicago. The Quebec-based firm is entering stage 3 trials for its shot. Now, this could be ready by late summer, but since everyone is scheduled to be vaccinated once by that time, could it be used as a second dose? We are expecting 4.5 million doses of vaccine to arrive this week, and by the end of June, another 20.3 million doses of Pfizer and just over 1 million more doses of Moderna. City News Time, 10:32. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
And we are asking here in the second half of the Talkback Hour, what can safely reopen right now? Some things, if so, what are those things? Or a thing. Everything, just throw caution to the wind, or nothing because of variants, the increased transmissibility of variants, like the Indian variant. I keep mentioning Dr. Doug Manuel was on our program yesterday, epidemiologist. University of Ottawa, member of Ontario's Science Table. This is what he said about the Indian variant.
If we confirm in Canada the transmissibility, and it's so transmissible, I don't think we could have stopped it without vaccination. Like if this happened last year, I don't think that we would have a chance. It would have ripped through. Now we've got a really good chance with the vaccinations are effective against it, but we're not fully vaccinated. And so we might be back to the race of the V's, Rob, that we talked about on the show many times.
Yes.
We kind of lost the race of the V's in April, and we don't want to lose the next one.
Don't want to lose the next one. Okay, don't want to lose the next one. Now, on the business side of things, you know, I'd like to know what you think about where we are right now with that, whether any of these business restrictions could be lifted. The government has the Ford government has characterized some businesses as being high risk. They're high-risk businesses. Personal care establishments, for example, high risk, not allowed to open. Amusement parks, water parks, bathhouses and sex clubs, high risk. Just during a pandemic. Casinos, bingo halls, gaming establishments, day camps, horse racing, motorsports, museums, cultural amenities, tour and guide services, zoos and aquariums. Zoos and aquariums only permitted to operate for the care of animals. All high risk, Okay? What do you think about that list? And on the recreation side, a previous caller mentioned this, picnic tables, picnic sites, baseball diamonds, basketball courts, soccer fields, BMX parks, skate parks, all closed. Should they be? What do you think? In-class learning, a few people mentioned that prior to the 10:30 news for schools. I mean, that's the big thing. In-class learning remains closed, all online. And now the clock is ticking on the school year anyway. I know there remains some hope that in-class learning could return to Ottawa before the end of the school year. What about tomorrow? Could we reopen that tomorrow? What do you think? Let me know. 750-1310. Eric, Barrhaven. What do you think, Eric? Could we reopen some things, everything, nothing? What do you think?
Well, I think first of all, I mean, the doc from Riverside you interviewed this morning hit the nail right on the head. This is an aerosol transmitted disease. The way you break that transmission is putting up a barrier. So mask. So think of anything where you can wear a mask constantly, and that probably defines what you can open up. So I would say most stores.
Most stores. Okay.
The only trouble I have with school with classrooms is that what do you do during lunch periods? Would kids have to take their masks off? That's the problem I have with schools. And that's about the only problem I have with schools.
Okay.
Is the fact that you have to unmask at some point to eat your lunch. So schools with that condition, most outdoor sports, again, but masked. It's not the variants that are the worry, and it's not the transmissibility that's the worry, because whether it's B117 or B1617 or P1, it's all the same virus. It's all the same size, and it handles itself in the air in a very, very similar manner. So the fact that it's of a small size, that when you're breathing heavily, it's going well beyond 6 feet or 2 meters. It's going to 10, 12, 14, 20 feet. So we're suffering under this illusion that 6 feet or 2 meters is going to save us. It's not. It's actually putting us in danger. And I see people all the time outside biking, running, walking, not masked, and that is the problem.
Okay.
In my mind.
All right. Anything you can wear a mask, you think would be okay.
If you can mask up and
keep it on.
up.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Eric.
Okay.
Thank you. That's Eric's opinion there. Up next, what can safely reopen? Again, our question is, what can safely reopen in Ontario right now? And maybe your answer is nothing, okay, which is a fine answer. Kate in Kemptville. What do you think, Kate?
I believe some things should open.
Okay.
And
like what?
I'm a camper. I love camping.
All right.
I've camped my entire life.
Right.
And obviously I just got the email confirming that my cancellation for the May long weekend has been, canceled. But
okay.
And I do understand that in some senses, a lot of people are being irresponsible, especially when it comes to long weekends. And I understand that, and it's challenging. But putting a blanket down saying, no camping, for the most part, we usually go backwoods camping, which means there's no facilities to be cleaning. There's no contact with anybody else. They're allowing for day use, which encourages more people to transition through those spaces, in my opinion, than if you have someone who's camping for, 2+ nights, where they're staying for a longer period of time.
Okay. So camping, if it's done right? If it's done safely,
But I believe that's said to most things. If it's done right, unfortunately, there's no vaccine for stupidity.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Kate. Thank you.
No worries.
Good to hear from you. Yeah. Camping. Very popular. A lot of, May 24 is coming, right? So when is that? We're off that day, David. Yeah, we have the long
next
weekend.
Monday.
Just learned that this morning.
No
That's
show.
Nice. That is nice.
Long weekend.
Love those long weekends. Ron in Barrhaven. Ron.
Morning, Rob.
Morning, Ron. What can safely reopen? Some things, everything, nothing? What do you think?
I think we should reopen everything. And what we were doing before with limited number of people in the shops, people wearing masks, whatever. I think I'm astounded that Doug Ford is following the models of people like Cuomo and Newsom instead of DeSantis and Abbott. I think this is craziness. We can take care of this sort of stuff. We did it before. You can have hairdressers open. The client wears a mask. The hair cutter wears a mask. If dentists can do it, why can't hairdressers?
Okay.
I just think we should just open everything up, and we have limits of people. I'm not even into the limits part, but I'm okay with it.
Right.
X amount of people in a store. Small shop, 4 people max. It's to me, it's a no-brainer. And sure, there's variants and whatnot, but 50% of the cities had one vaccination. How many people have had COVID, have the antibodies, and it's times 5, I believe, is what I was reading. So I think we're in a position that we can do what DeSantis did in Florida, protect those that need protecting, and the rest of us. I don't like to minimize it, but you have to. It's over 99% survivability for people that don't have underlying and they're not aged.
Right. So everything. Okay. Everything. Yeah. Okay. You are the second person, Ron, to say that.
I know.
You're in the minority. As long as and I don't think you have a problem with that, but you are in the minority. Okay. Some things, some people think we've gone, too far. It's too broad, the lockdown, the stay-at-home order. I'd be curious to know what people think about this, the roping off of things at the big box stores. The rules of the current stay-at-home order say that the discount and big box stores, they can only be open for in-person shopping, 25% capacity, and only for these items. Grocery items, pet care, household cleaning supplies, pharmaceuticals, healthcare items, personal care items, household safety supplies and school supplies, and everything else has to be roped off, or the aisles have to be closed. And they're not allowed to sell anything that isn't government-approved essential stuff. Some people agree with that. Jim Watson, the mayor of Ottawa, was advocating for something just like that in the name of fairness, in the name of leveling the playing field with the Main Street retailers. Others have said, I feel like I'm being treated like a little child, and it's silly and insulting. So if you have a comment on that, I just think I actually think those restrictions are kind of silly, since the same stay-at-home order says that businesses can start delivering booze at 6 o'clock in the morning in Ontario. 6 o'clock in the morning, David, they can start to deliver alcohol to your house in Ontario.
What a time to be alive. That's where Doug Ford's buddies are getting their pops from. They're getting them delivered. Deliver them to the course.
And at least they have to wait until 9 o'clock before they can deliver the pot. But,
there you go.
Holy smokes, man. My gosh. But like buying blue jeans at Costco is too dangerous, hey? But hey, if you want to rip at one at 6 o'clock in the morning, go ahead. Some of the crazy rules we have in this province. Megan in Ottawa. Megan.
Hi, Rob. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, Megan. Thank you.
Good. I just wanted to comment on the fact that Gatineau and Quebec have already opened, which I think is really ridiculous.
Well, opened up a little bit. Right.
Oh, yeah. Well, still,
more than we are. Right.
Well, that's it. And nothing is going to open unless people start being vigilant. How many people you see NAC bike rides on Sunday? How many people do I see up on the Frank Street dog park with their dogs? Okay. It's crazy.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I saw some pictures of it. The beaches were very busy, and
but when is this going to end? When? Unless people start being really vigilant and listening to what you have to say about the different variants, about how India is still being impacted day after day, my heart goes out to that country. It really does.
Of course. Yeah, it's been terrible. So would you say then, you'd say nothing then? Nothing. Okay.
Because if we open too early again, we're going to have another fourth wave.
We're going to be in for a world of hurt.
Down again for months and months and months.
Right.
And, I struggle with mental health issues myself.
Okay.
But I also have a dog. So for me, getting out 3 or 4 times a day, walking my dog is my mental health therapy.
Okay. Well, hang in there, Megan.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your call today. Appreciate it. Yeah, so our question during the talkback hour has proved very popular. What can safely reopen right now? An opinion is really all over the place. Some people have cited certain examples of things that they think can reopen safely right now. Some people have said, open everything. Let's open everything. And some people are like Megan, and they've said nothing. Okay, nothing. I don't want to go through this again. Let's make this lockdown the last one. Want to know what you're thinking? 750-1310. Be right back here on City News.
It's a space that needs to be lived in. It's a space that people, have to have an experience of more than just art on the walls. I think, yes, the art on the walls is fun, and it's fun to walk around and see all the beautiful things, and the way Dominic and Edith have curated the gallery is certainly something worth seeing. But coming by and asking questions, again, to Dominic's point of view is, interrupt him, ask questions. I'm here on most of the days too. We have Luce that comes in, Nancy that comes in. So we have quite a few opportunities for people to come in and see the process, and of course ask a few questions. It's a great space. Basically, the one event that we did do, is the jazz shows, the jazz and blues shows. And I think the weird thing to let you know is that the acoustics in here are really amazing. I think that was the first thing that blew me away when we started doing shows, or when I was helping out with the shows. And the other part of the business too is we do rent it out for special occasions too. So a few weddings, birthday parties, product launches, that kind of thing. So they're also a lot of fun. We do have one artist that's from the States, but of the 30-odd artists, the rest are from either Quebec, Ontario, and one beautiful woman from BC. But it's definitely part of the philosophy to maintain and canvas and show the beauty that we have in our backyard. You have the very, very strong personalities in Edith and Dominic, of course. It's wonderful to see how that actually balances out in the rest of the gallery. Without necessarily being, an objective, we basically have half female artists and half male artists in this gallery. But I can't say it's anything more than choosing the best people, and that's just the way it is. And I love that. I think it's great. You go through here and you're like, wow, it's all pretty cool. And it's half are women and half are men. It's cool. Like everyone else, we didn't know what to think, right? It's overwhelming at first. You just know that things are closed. And now you're trying to figure out what you do during that downtime, which I think everyone did. And I think in March, the first close, the first shutdown, it was a lot of actually recuperating and resting and not worrying too much on the spot. It's running a gallery is a bit like running a marathon with sprints. So there comes a time where, it's actually nice to just take a break. And then you wake up and realize that, okay, now it's time to wake up and deal with this new reality. From my perspective anyways, I think a gallery can be overwhelming, and I like to make it fun. So you're going to come in, I'll ask you questions, I might even joke around with you. The most people come here, they're not really going to buy art, but they could have a fun time and talk about it, right? And one of the things the gallery does offer is for local purchases, we'll be happy to drive it to your house and hang it for you.
Talk back
on the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
Ottawa Public Health says all available vaccine appointments in Ottawa have now been booked. More appointments will be released as more vaccine supply comes in. That is the latest. We will have more details during our 11 o'clock newscast. We're also paying attention to the FedCo meeting. They are now in camera, the members of the FedCo committee, most powerful committee at City Hall. It is the chairs of all the other committees are on the FedCo committee. It's kind of like the cabinet of City Hall, if you will. And so they're in camera. That means they're behind closed doors because they are getting some updates on lawsuits, quite likely light rail lawsuits. That's what the buzz is about. And we're paying attention to it because we want to know what's going to happen with the Mark Motors grant of $2.9 million in the name of economic development for Vanier. The Rob Snow Show at ottawa.citynews.ca is the email address. Howie writes, yesterday I had to get some meds at the pharmacy, made a couple of stops for groceries and the LCBO. I was amazed at how many vehicles were out there. Traffic was crazy. Store parking lots were full. With the amount of people out there, I can't see much of a difference there would be to opening up golf courses, tennis, restaurants, other stores. It seems people are fed up and going out regardless. Lockdown is nothing but upsetting people further. I'm in favor of opening everything, but I'm worried it would be nuts. Because so many people have been staying home, they'll finally be able to get out. I'm almost thinking of staying home for the first week. It's going to be crazy out there. You know what, Howie? You're on to something there, I think. Rob writes, recreational boating should be open. Having it closed makes no sense. Rideau Canal was supposed to open this weekend. They have announced they are staying closed for the duration of the lockdown. Shut down the House of Commons. Think of the money we could save. Writes Mark. Thank you. Let's get to the calls. What could safely reopen right now in Ontario? Some things, if so what? Everything, just throw caution to the wind. Let's open up everything or nothing. Keep it locked down tight. What do you think? Up next, we have Lisa, Carleton Place. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Rob.
Hi there.
In my county, we don't have any cases. I really resent the fact that we're being compared to large cities where they have a lot of them. Okay. People here are very, very vigilant. I'm a senior at home. I just want to get my hair cut, my nails done, my feet done. Plus, a lot of seniors want to buy books. Not everyone has a computer. How do you buy books when everything is closed? And on top of that, if you want your bedroom painted, how do you buy paint? You can't buy paint. I phoned a couple of stores in town here. They say you have to go online, and they give you the color of a few swatches.
Right.
Now, my friend has a computer, but how do you pick a color? I think that it's really, really ridiculous. Seniors are fed up, and I think that it should be open by county or cities where there are hardly any cases.
Right. A regional approach, right? A regional.
Correct.
Yeah. Good point, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Bye-bye.
luck. Yep, bye-bye. Yep. Iroquois. Dick, good morning. Dick, you're on City News. What do you think can safely reopen, if anything?
Just about everything, eh? Why not? There was an accident on the weekend out here near Cornwall or something. And it's unfortunate. I feel bad for the people involved and everything, but they're visiting from Bangladesh. I'm sorry, I can't visit my daughter over in Gatineau.
Right.
Okay. So as long as they're flying people around the tin cans with an air, everybody getting it through the air, why are we isolating? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
I see. As long as there's international travel happening, why can't you go see your daughter in Gatineau? Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. Why can't I go across the border?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Why are you giving a couple of tickets in a church parking lot up in Welland or wherever it was, for playing a virtual game? They wanted to get out of the house.
Elmer, Ontario, I think. Yeah.
Stop giving the ticket, because they're putting their first responders at risk. Okay. Yet at the same time, the same day, I think, in the newspaper was some fool out on the rapids on his surfboard.
That's right.
And it was all good news that this guy is just having the ball out there.
Yeah.
He didn't get a ticket. Everything is so messed up here, like golfing. You can't open the golf. Well, no, because they might go for a pop after. Who's the one was promoting $1 a beer?
That's right. That's right. He was promoting Buck a beer. That's right. Yes.
I just don't get what's going on in this world, and we're all stupid, and we sit back and take it. We're Canadian, that's for sure. I'm fed up myself. I like to go in the park and go fishing.
Kidding.
They told us last year you couldn't go up in the park. Finally, I couldn't make the spring fishing, so I went up in the fall. It was supposed to be filthy up there and everything. I went up, Rob. It was the best 5 days of my life. There wasn't a person on that lake. They must have had everybody scared out of the crap out of them. It was beautiful. Just me and the animals.
Yeah. Well,
I tell you.
You must have fit right in, Dick.
Yeah, I got my first shot. I'm halfway there.
Good. We'll talk soon. Thank you. Yep, he makes some good. How about the Dick in Iroquois show? How about that? Even just for 10 minutes a day. In Greeley, Jen. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning.
What do you think can safely reopen, if anything?
Okay, so I'm two different standpoints here. I'm a school bus driver, so I was carting all the kids around, getting them to school.
Yeah.
We were following all the protocols. Things were working. Even though we had cases, multiple cases in the schools, we still didn't shut down those schools. We only shut down the classroom and then the bus and the driver. And it was working. Things were not out of control. Even before Christmas, one of my schools had 5 cases. They still did not shut the school down. It was managed, and it didn't turn into an outbreak.
So you think the classrooms can open then?
We followed the rules, and it was working fine. You know what I mean? It wasn't going, like, we had 5 cases at one school before Christmas. They never shut that school down. And it was managed. It didn't turn into 20 cases. It went from 5 cases back down to 0. It was managed. People can manage it. People can follow the rules. Then there's no problem. On the other flip side, my husband deals with the city's water system. He has been at work every single day since this pandemic started. Now, they talk about getting these vaccines and everything else. I was a school bus driver. I'm at home now, obviously, because the schools are closed. Why were we not, if it was so important to get these vaccines, why were we and the teachers not given those vaccines when it first happened? It never happened. To this day, I still do not have a vaccine. I'm still on a waiting list to get a vaccine. So it's not.
You're a bus driver and you're a school bus driver?
Yeah. And
you haven't even had one shot yet?
No, they just opened up the portal for school bus drivers last week. They just opened up the portal. Now, how backwards is that? We've been driving those kids, and you just opened last week for school bus drivers to get their shots. Unless you were over 40, you know what I mean, medical conditions. The actual email from our employer came last week saying, you have a go-ahead now to go get your vaccine, which is ridiculous. Now, my husband deals with the city's water system. Now, for the last year and a half, we've complained about how much is in the water system. Now, he still has not, nobody at his work through their employer has gotten a vaccine. They have dealt with that water system since this whole thing has started.
Right.
So when they talk about vaccines and how important it is, it probably is very important. But you know what? As 2 cases who are on the front lines, which I consider that front line.
Sure.
My husband has been working with that water system. He has not taken not one day off.
And does he have a first dose yet?
No.
No. Oh.
No.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
And his employer has nothing to do with the employer either. It's strictly on his own to go get his own. The employer's not setting up anything for them to, and there's hundreds of employees.
Gotcha. I gotta go, Jen.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Well, there's a school bus driver thinks the classes can be open, and a lot of people mentioned that this week. So overwhelmingly, first of all, people think there are things that are closed right now that can be open. No doubt about that. That was the dominant opinion. And if you think everything can be open, that was the minority opinion. If you think everything should remain the status quo until the 2nd of June, even fewer people said that. Thank you for a very interesting talkback hour. We'll do that again tomorrow at 750-1310 here on The Rob Snow Show on City News.
local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, May 18th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 20 degrees. In Smiths Falls, 21. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Latest numbers from the province and COVID infections show an additional 1,616 in the province and 17 more deaths. That number of deaths has now pushed that total number in Canada to 25,000 since the start of the pandemic. Of the new cases, 56 are in Ottawa, 9 for Eastern Ontario. No new cases in Leeds, Grenville, Lanark, according to the province, and 1 new case in Renfrew. The test positivity in today's number is 7.6%. The number of tests just under 23,000. All appointments in the city for a COVID vaccine have been spoken for. At 8 o'clock this morning, the provincial portal was open up to anyone over the age of 18. By 10:30, all the available vaccine shots in Ottawa were booked. The Prime Minister will be addressing the nation today, providing an update on COVID-19 and a Made in Canada vaccine high on the agenda. It's also expected that Justin Trudeau will face questions about allegations against the now former head of the federal vaccine distribution program. Here is City News Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney.
I'm being told we should expect the Prime Minister to announce an investment in domestic biomanufacturing when it comes to producing vaccines here at home. The Star reports it will be $190 million for Mississauga-based Resilience Biotechnologies to help the company produce up to 640 million doses of mRNA vaccines every year beginning in 2024. We're also expecting to hear an update on vaccine shipments in the weeks ahead as the country sees a big ramp up in deliveries. This comes on the heels of news that a Made in Canada vaccine from Medicago has shown positive data from its second round of trials and could be ready for a final authorization request this summer. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is also expected to face questions around the allegations against Major General Denis Fortin, who on Friday left his role as the country's head of vaccine distribution due to a military investigation that's reportedly about sexual misconduct. The Globe and Mail reports it took 2 months for military officials to remove Fortin from his position after they first received the allegation. Brigadier General Krista Brody has been named as his replacement. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
City News time, 11:03. The National Capital Commission says with the provincial stay-at-home orders, the opening of the Rideau Canal boating season is delayed at least until June 2nd. The NCC says its delayed opening includes overnight mooring. Now, Parks Canada following suit, keeping all visitor centres and campgrounds closed. Any Parks Canada camping reservations impacted by the delay are automatically cancelled. If you booked a site, you don't have to cancel. You will be refunded automatically. Ottawa police asking for assistance to find a missing teen. This is 15-year-old Jessica Yates, who left her home in Barrhaven sometime between 11:30 last night and 3 this morning. Now, she is described as Indigenous, 5'2", and a small build. She has chin-length black hair and was wearing a lime green Under Armour hoodie, blue Keen running shoes, and carrying a gray tote. We do have a picture of Jessica up at ottawa.citynews.ca. Natural Resource Minister Seamus O'Regan says if Michigan's governor is successful in shutting down the Line 5 pipeline, it would be messy, expensive, and cause more pollution. That's because it could take 2 months or longer to find alternative shipping methods. In the meantime, it means all the oil and natural gas would have to be loaded onto 18-wheelers. Governor Gretchen Whitmer is worried a leak in the line that runs between Michigan and Ontario would cause an environmental catastrophe. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
Let's talk about Bill C-10. The Liberals, the Bloc, the New Democrats are going to team up. They're going to shut down debate on Bill C-10. The Internet Regulation Bill, all in the name of protecting and promoting Canadian culture. Our guest this morning to speak about Bill C-10, former Director General of Telecommunications Policy Industry Canada, Len St-Aubin, joins me on City News. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, it's very nice to hear from you. So you have put your name on a letter to the Prime Minister, addressed to the Prime Minister. It's from the Canadian chapter of what's known as the Internet Society. Now, I'm not too familiar with the Internet Society. I doubt some of our listeners are either. What is that?
Well, I mean, we're part of a global Internet Society that is really interested in developing policies and helping governments around the world come up with ways and means to make the internet for everyone. I mean, that's the broad goal, is that the internet should be for everyone, and we want to make sure that it is available to everyone, and that policies make it useful and helpful for everyone.
Okay, reading through your letter, it says, quote, "We call on you to stop harming the internet." How would Bill C-10 harm the internet?
Well, Bill C-10 is really problematic because it's trying to retrofit onto the internet a law, the Broadcasting Act, that's really based on ideas from the 1980s and was intended to regulate radio, TV, satellite, and cable broadcasters. Bill C-10 does that by changing the definition of broadcasting so that it would capture pretty much all online audio and video, with very few exceptions. And then the CRTC would have full discretion to pick and choose what would be regulated or not. Now, to put that in context, the CRTC right now regulates a few thousand radio, TV, cable, and satellite broadcasters. C-10 would sweep in millions of websites from around the world. Now, the government says that only the big streamers would then be regulated, but if that's the case, why capture it all in the first place? It's a strange way to go about, trying to support CanCon online. You can do it without this kind of heavy-handed CRTC intervention.
How would you do it?
Well, I'll give you an example. Australia, for example, has proposed to start deregulating radio and television broadcasting, and then they would make only the big streamers, and they define it. I think their threshold was 1 million subscribers and over $100 million of revenues in Australia. Their proposals would make those big streamers contribute. They're proposing 5% of their revenues in Australia to either produce Australian content or put it into a fund. And they're not otherwise proposing to regulate. So that approach, I think we've come to a point with the internet now where I think we have to start making broadcasting and broadcasting regulation adapt to the reality of the internet rather than trying to force fit the internet into broadcasting law.
Right. And that seemed to be the original intent of this entire discussion is, okay, Netflix, Facebook, YouTube, pick your platform. They're doing very well. They're certainly feasting on traditional media in Canada. Let's go after them. Let's try and get a little money out of them, the so-called Netflix tax, and whatever money we can collect from them, let's put it in a fund, a media culture fund, or whatever you want to call it. But as this has gone on, it's kind of morphed into this big monster now. What do you think of that? It's kind of moved beyond its original intent to me.
Well, there's when in a lot of the media discussion, and it's kind of unfortunate because so much of the public debate around Bill C-10 has been dominated by regulated broadcasters and the production sector that supplies subsidized content to meet the regulated demand. And that, in my opinion, has kind of left a lot of ordinary Canadians and Canadians who are doing extremely well internationally on things like YouTube, kind of out of the picture, and that's unfair. While a lot of the discussion has been around this notion of contributing to a fund, in fact, Bill C-10 was never really just about making streamers contribute to a fund. The way that it's structured, Bill C-10 would apply the full scope of CRTC regulation to whatever streamers the CRTC determines it should apply to. So it's very, very broad in scope. And lately, the discussion, of course, has been about sweeping in user-uploaded content, and that takes us into a whole other...
Mr. Guilbeault and those who favor Bill C-10 say that's nothing to worry about. They're not going after user-generated content. What do you think?
Well, here's the thing. As originally tabled, Bill C-10 had two interlocking exclusions that work together in an important way. Section 2.1 excluded from regulation individuals who upload content to social media. And then Section 4.1 correspondingly excluded social media from being regulated for that user-uploaded content. Well, in committee, the Liberals pushed through an amendment that took out 4.1. Now, as you say, the government has gone back and forth on this. They've denied and acknowledged and then denied again that C-10 will now regulate user-uploaded content. And the official position hangs on the fact that individuals are excluded. Well, okay, so you and I could not be regulated as a broadcaster. But the removal of Section 4.1 really muddies the water. Once social media like YouTube are made responsible for that user-uploaded content, that will allow the CRTC to make them apply certain Canadian content rules.
Right.
So, in my view, that's regulation. And why open the door to that? You know, there's been a lot of jokes about cat videos, but what that ignores is that there are a whole lot of talented, creative young Canadians who are succeeding and making a living with online video outside the box of CRTC regulation and government subsidies. And the question is, why mess with that? You know, why do you want to potentially harm what has been a huge benefit for a lot of young, talented Canadian creators?
Well, plus, Mr. St-Aubin, the minister has not shied away from the fact in public comments that he has made is that this may be only the beginning of new regulations. There may be a whole new regulator because they're working on other legislation about so-called harmful content or so-called critical content, which puts us into an entirely different domain altogether.
Yeah, that's another issue, and in some ways that's potentially a whole lot more problematic. You know, I mean, some of the things that we've heard them talk about are blocking websites and requiring content to be removed without proper, legal authority and legal oversight. And that's where you start getting into stuff that could really even harm the infrastructure, the technology that is the internet. That is really, really problematic as well. And we haven't seen that legislation yet, so it's hard to talk about it because
right.
All there is right now is rumors.
But nevertheless, your letter that you have co-signed here does mention, I'm just going to read it. It appears that Canada is not immune to the growing trend of government intervention to curtail freedom and seek to control parts of the Internet's infrastructure in ways reminiscent of actions taken by authoritarian governments. For example, the Indian government forced Twitter, because Twitter had to abide by legislation, Twitter had to remove tweets that were critical of the Modi's government handling of the latest outbreak of COVID-19 in India. Those kinds of actions, firewall type actions.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of thing that is concerning about Bill C-10 when it comes to potentially sweeping in user-uploaded content. Now, they say, well, they've limited the kind of regulation that might apply to that. It's important to bear in mind that social media were already captured by Bill C-10 when it comes to content that they upload themselves. So this removal of Section 4.1 really ups the ante, opens the door to more contributions and putting them in a situation where they, on behalf of the CRTC, would have to prioritize and that means deprioritizing some content.
Okay.
And sure, I mean, it's nice. We like to think that we live in a democracy and the rule of law applies and we have the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. But it's not clear to me why you would want to allow the regulator to get into prioritizing and deprioritizing user-uploaded content. That really potentially takes you down a path of even political type regulation. I mean, what content? How do you determine what content is Canadian or Canadian enough? You know, yeah. I read recently. I think it was in the Peterborough Examiner. There was a game developer who was expressing that concern. I think she has games uploaded on a service called Twitch, and she was worried about that, saying, you know, I'm making a reasonable living here. I'm doing well, but I mean, what does being Canadian mean? You know, you've got all these rules for radio and television Canadian content. How do you apply those online, and how do you apply them to user-generated content? This kind of stuff is going to lead to so much CRTC, so many CRTC proceedings, and it'll go on for years and years before anybody sees any benefit out of this stuff.
Okay. I thank you for your time today.
You're welcome.
Great pleasure.
Yeah. Talk about it.
Yeah. Leonard St-Aubin is a consultant now, former Director General of Telecommunications Policy at Industry Canada, and is one of the signatories to this letter from the Internet Society, the Canadian chapter of the Internet Society. Some familiar names are on Van Hampson, for example. Conrad von Finkenstein, I remember he was the chair for a long time of the CRTC, former competition commissioner as well. And Michael Geist from the University of Ottawa has kind of been leading the charge. He's only the Canada Research Chair in Internet and E-commerce Law. One of the top researchers. Yeah, he has signed this letter too. So we're following it. Can you imagine? They're going to ram it through. Shut down debate. It seems only fitting that, I guess, that they would shut down debate on Bill C-10, 1118. Rob Snow Show. We're going to talk to the Ottawa Police Traffic Unit next here on City News.
The food cupboard started about 25 years ago. Again, it was a very small operation in the basement of a church. And we have been expanding to the point where we needed to have a new facility. So in discussion with the city of Ottawa and Jan Harder, the local representative here, we came to this location, which is about 2,000 square feet, located in the Walter Baker Center. We've been here for about 2 years, and it is much better. It gives us a much broader opportunity to serve our clients better. It's a fairly affluent community in Barrhaven, so you wouldn't think that people would really need to have a food bank or a food cupboard. But people sometimes have a temporary loss of their job, maybe new immigrants or refugees to the community. Maybe there's been an injury in the family or something like a pandemic that causes people to run short of food during their monthly requirements. So we offer any clients who come and live in our catchment area the opportunity to pick up an order of food every 3 or 4 weeks. The need varies from time to time. We have expanded our offering to include quite a few perishables, eggs, milk, cheese, yogurt, vegetables, fruit, but people I think know that we need cans of beans and stuff as well too. One thing that we're consistently short of sometimes is personal hygiene products. You go to the grocery store, you buy your toothpaste and you buy your deodorant and shampoo there. People don't automatically think that to donate those kinds of things to a food cupboard. So we end up buying quite a few of those things from time to time. The pandemic has affected us like it has everybody. Initially, we had to stop the grocery store food donations so that we didn't have any risk of contamination and to have a significant number of volunteer work to be done in our facility. We have a storefront, so it's like a mini grocery store where you take a cart and you go around and pick out the things that you want. That doesn't work during the pandemic to maintain social distancing and so on. So what we have now is our clients can come in one at a time, they make an appointment, they stand behind a line, and they direct our volunteer to I'd like Kellogg's Corn Flakes rather than Harvest Crunch, to pick the food that they would like off the shelves according to the allocation, depending on the size of their family. And then they take it out, load it into their vehicle or whatever, bring back the cart, we disinfect everything, and prepare for the next client. We are very blessed here in Barrhaven. We're a totally volunteer organization. So if you give a dollar to us, it goes to purchasing food or to provide some service to our clients.
Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Let's get an update on Project Noisemaker from the Ottawa Police Service Traffic Unit. Sergeant Robert Cairns joins me on City News. Good morning, Sergeant. How are you?
I'm fine. Yourself?
I'm good. Thank you for taking the time. It's great. Great to hear from you. Boy, a lot of Mario Andretti wannabes out there, aren't there? Yes.
Indeed, yes. The project started on May the 1st and is ongoing. Thus far, it concentrates on Friday, Saturday nights as the hot time for us. And during that period so far, we've had 20 stunts. That equates to 20 vehicles impounded, 20 driving licenses suspended. But throughout the year so far, from January the 1st to today's date, we've had 178 stunt drivers in the city limits.
Since the start of the year?
Since the start of the year, yes, Rob. Yep.
5.5 months, 178 stunt drivers.
Exactly.
My gosh, sir.
It is a concern.
Yes, I would imagine so. And maybe some examples. I know the Ottawa Police Twitter account is very good at giving some specific examples, but really outrageous driving in the city on in 60-kilometer-an-hour zones. What kind of drivers are you catching? Going what kinds of speeds, Sergeant?
Well, just this week, I suppose one of the classic excuses this week was 146 on Bronson in the 60. And the gentleman stated he was going home to dinner. It must have been an awesome meal that he was going back to. And also, we're quite concerning is the amount of novice drivers we're actually picking up stunt driving. Just this week again, 159 on Heron, again a 60, a young G2 male driver. The list goes on, Rob. There's some horrendous speeds going on out there, as you correctly stated at the beginning.
Now, stunt driving, to be charged with stunt driving, what's the threshold, Sergeant?
At the moment, and it's under review by the province, if you're 50 kilometres an hour above the speed limit, then you are stunt driving. And that will entail initially a 7-day driving licence suspension, a 7-day vehicle impoundment, and when you get to court, a minimum of a $2,000 fine.
Minimum.
Yes, a minimum, and it could go up to $10,000. And there's a possible jail term attributed to that as possible, up to 6 months in jail, and also 6 demerit points on your driving licence.
Right. Your insurance company's going to love you for a long time, right? Yeah.
Yes, a long time.
And I would suspect you impound the vehicle at the roadside, right? So,
correct.
The driver has to pay the impound fee.
Correct.
The driver's going to have to pay for the tow.
Correct.
Right. So there are a lot. $2,000 is just the start.
It is.
Right.
Yes. Then there's obviously if any insurance company is going to touch you, you're going to have dramatic insurance payments as well.
Yeah. Now, you express concern about beginner drivers that you're seeing out there. Now, look, I haven't been a novice driver in a long time, so you'll have to remind me how the graduated system works, because I know that, isn't it with young drivers, they're supposed to be in the car with somebody else who has a driver's license. They're not allowed to be out after night, and there are all kinds of restrictions, right? So
correct. Yeah, a G1 driver can't drive unaccompanied. It's got to have a qualified G licensed person with them, but they've got to have held a G license for, I believe it's 4 years before they can act as a supervisor. Once they pass the G1 exit, they get their G2 driving license, and basically that gives them the full privileges of driving a motor vehicle by themselves, but they're subject to zero alcohol tolerance.
Right.
And once they've passed that, they become obviously a G, and they can enjoy the full G benefits of that driving license.
Yeah. Privileges, right? Privileges. Yeah. And you have nabbed a few who have abused the privilege, right?
Oh, very much.
Yes.
We always say this: driving is a privilege; it's not a right. And they're abusing the roads. These people that drive at such high speeds. Some of them are habitual drivers that go out to show off and exceed the speed limit, and others are those that are genuine mistakes. They're in a rush to get home or get to a meeting, all of which are inexcusable because you're so high above the speed limit. You're so high, and you've got to be aware of the risks associated with such high speeds.
Yeah. What, under Project Noisemaker, what else are police looking out for, the Ottawa Police Service?
To be blunt, we were looking at vehicles that are modified with the modified mufflers. They're a total annoyance to the residents of Ottawa. We are inundated with complaints throughout the whole of the city in relation to loud exhausts. So we're targeting those. During this, since May the 1st, we've had 41 provincial offence notices issued for improper mufflers and unnecessary noise as a result of these noisy exhausts. And along with those mufflers, a lot of the time we are finding emission issues. They're taking away the catalytic converters and they're polluting the atmosphere as well and making, again, the city unnecessarily polluted. Due to the fact that they're taking away emission issues as well. And we're charging under the environmental legislation for that as well, which is again a hefty fine. It's $385, I believe, for taking away your emission devices.
Sure. So the long weekend is coming. You'll be out again?
Oh, yes.
In anticipation of the long weekend,
Yes, totally. Running side-by-side Noisemaker this week, we have Canada Road Safety Week, which is an Ontario enforcement program, which has been set up by the chief associations of police. And we're actively out this weekend, again, targeting aggressive behavior, and it's basically zero tolerance.
Okay. Thank you, Sergeant. Stay safe out there.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Bye-bye.
Take care of yourself.
Sergeant Robert Cairns from the traffic unit of the Ottawa Police Service. Can you imagine 159 in this? I can't even imagine it, David. 159 kilometers on Bronson Avenue in a 60-kilometer zone on Bronson Avenue.
I don't think my car can even go that fast. I don't think the Mazda could do it. But
goodness gracious.
Yeah,
unbelievable some of the stuff they're catching out there. Slow down, everyone. It's not like you have anywhere to go anyway. We'll be right back. We'll talk about the lumber shortage with the president of the Ottawa Home Builders Association, Roy Nandram. This is City News.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, the 18th of May. Good morning. I'm Sarah Buchan. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, we've got mainly sunny skies and 22 degrees. Here's what's making news this hour. Provincial health officials report 56 new cases of COVID-19 in Ottawa out of 1,616 new cases across Ontario. 17 new deaths due to the virus reported. Today's numbers out of over 22,000 tests, the test positivity rate at 7.6%. Elsewhere locally, Leeds Grenville Lanark Health Unit confirms 2 new cases, one in the past 24 hours. Renfrew County has 1 new case, and there are 9 new cases in Eastern Ontario. Now, the local health units will update their numbers in the afternoon. All booked. The City of Ottawa reports all appointments for COVID-19 vaccinations at community clinics have been taken. The city says more appointments will be added once Ottawa receives more vaccine from the province. According to a news release, the expansion of the vaccination appointments to everyone 18 years of age and older filled up the booking system this morning. The rollout of the vaccine continues. The city says everyone who wants a shot will be able to get one. National Capital Commission says with the provincial stay-at-home order, the opening of the Rideau Canal boating season is delayed until at least June 2nd. The NCC says the delayed opening includes overnight mooring. Parks Canada is following suit by keeping all visitor centres and campgrounds closed. Any Parks Canada camping reservations impacted by the delay are automatically cancelled. If you booked a site, you do not have to cancel. It will be refunded automatically. I'm Sarah Buchan. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Strong voice.
Strong opinions.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Let's talk about construction right now and some of the supply chain problems that are being experienced. I mean, the lumber and the shortage of lumber and the price of lumber, that's been all over the news for many weeks, if not months now. But now it's insulation, it's windows, it's PVC piping. All of this stuff is going up in price. And there are reports of supply chain disruptions. So we have with us Roy Nandram, President and CEO, R&D Construction. Good morning.
Good morning.
How's business?
Business is, I would say, fairly good.
Okay.
Could be better, but we're doing good.
Okay. What could make it better?
Well, lower lumber prices.
Lower lumber prices, yeah.
Lower prices in general. Yeah.
Right.
It's been a bit difficult dealing with shortage as well as price increases.
Yeah. For example, David and I are hardly experts in this, and we were looking up, if you needed to buy a whole bunch of lumber. If you're a big home builder, I suppose you could go to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and buy some on the futures market. Looking at the market price, I mean, the lumber market price was like $400 back in just December. Now it's $1,300 U.S. So it's more than tripled, it would seem, in price. Has that been your experience with the price of lumber, Mr. Nandram?
I would say on average, prices are triple.
Triple.
Okay, I'll give you a simple example. The pre-pandemic price for a sheet of 3/4-inch plywood was like $31, and today it's like $91.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 2x4 is approximately the same, actually, probably a little bit more than 3 times. So generally, prices are up dramatically, but the price has actually gone up gradually with a steady pace from last January, last March to today, and we're not quite sure where it's going from here.
So it could get worse. In other words,
it could get worse before it get better.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So with the certainly higher prices, are you having any problems sourcing any of the building materials that you need, finding the stuff?
Yes, there's a shortage of a lot of building materials, like fence material, for example. If you're doing landscaping, it's very difficult to get sufficient or well-priced fence material. There's shortage of a lot of plumbing materials, like ABS pipes, for example, there's shortage.
Mm-hmm.
Steel is prices have increased drastically. So everything we're looking for is delayed and the price will increase.
Okay. Has it been this way throughout the entire pandemic, Mr. Nandram, or has it really accelerated in the last, say, few months here?
Yeah, it's actually accelerated over the last 6 months.
It has.
Everything got worse.
Okay.
Because I think what happened is that the inventories were depleted during and after the pandemic begins. And because of that, we end up having shortage. Only now a lot of industries are coming back on stream and getting back to full capacity. So hopefully we can get more supplies and able to get the price back down.
Right. So you've been in business, what, 40 years?
31 years.
31 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen anything like this in your time in the construction business? No?
Never. This is unprecedented, you know.
What does it mean for your customers? What are you telling your customers?
Well, we are having soft prices, and in some cases, we are including allowances.
Okay.
In our projects. For example, let's say I price a new home for a custom home. I will say, okay, we've got $50,000 for lumber.
Yep.
And that's an allowance. And only when the framing is finished, we'll finalize that number. It's just like you do a kitchen cabinet or any other finishing material, which is not determined. You leave it as an allowance. And there's also the Canadian Build Association has issued escalation clause that we could use in our contract to allow us to increase prices on certain items. Because,
projects don't finish overnight, and the price of material at the beginning of the project may not necessarily reflect the price at the end of the project, I'm guessing, Mr. Nandram, right?
Okay, so let me give you a simple example.
I love it, yeah.
We have a small project, which is 9 homes.
9 homes, okay.
And they were all sold prior to the pandemic.
Yeah.
And our lumber cost per home is about $25,000 more than our budget.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these people also have the opportunity to enjoy the gain, the capital gain in these purchases. Because let's say, for example, I sold one home for $800,000. They could probably turn around tomorrow and sell it for $850 once they move in. So they have experienced that gain because of the housing boom as well. And I have no opportunity to increase my price because my contracts were fixed.
Right.
And this is the case with many home builders. And for that reason, they're limiting their supply of home to the market. Every few weeks, they put out like 10 homes and see where the price is, and then they adjust accordingly.
Oh, so you think in the Ottawa market, Mr. Nandram, this is very interesting, home builders are actually building less homes now?
No, but they're releasing it slower.
Releasing it slower, okay.
Yeah, because right now we are about 7,500 homes housing starts this year.
Yeah.
And which is our average over the last few years. Except last year, I think we had almost 10,000 new starts, but most of those, or a large portion of those, were apartment buildings and rentals.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What are home buyers, if they come to you, I want a custom home? Mr. Nandram, I want you to build me a house.
Right.
What do they want? What does the client want now? What's very popular with the clients right now?
There are many items that came out of a survey from the Canadian Builders Association. They want things like energy efficiency. Several of the priorities are energy efficiency. They want things like walk-in closets and nice kitchens.
Yes.
Open concept. However, I heard recently that open concept have created a problem during the pandemic because people trying to work from home and have kids running around in an open concept wasn't very good.
Okay.
Okay. So that was a little backlash for open concept. So people are looking now for open offices, office space in their home, because I think go beyond the pandemic, we are going to have a lot of people still working from home.
Right. So workspace, things to do with works. People need a place to work, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also quiet place, because if you have kids running around, you don't want to be zooming and have your kids in the background. You know?
Right. Okay.
And the other thing we've noticed over the last year or so is that sales in places like Arnprior, Carleton Place, on the outskirts of Ottawa, have been doing better because now people don't have to travel to work.
Yes.
So they could move away from the downtown core.
Yeah. Don't have to do the commute anymore, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So that's been changing a little bit.
Yeah. Start to finish, how long is it taking to build a house these days in Ottawa? On average.
I would say right now it's going to be 6 months to 10 months for a subdivision type home.
Okay.
Because normally they would build a house in about 4 months prior to all this.
Right.
But there's so much delays in getting things that you don't really know, what's going to be short next,
Right. And what the final price is going to be by the time, is the price going to be the same 10 months later, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, well, if you sold the house, your price is fixed.
Yeah,
right?
Okay.
And I give you one of the biggest issue we have in our supply chain right now is the timeline for kitchen cabinets. Like our suppliers are telling us 11 and 12 weeks.
Wow.
And that's a long time to get kitchen cabinets. So the house is actually drywall, floors installed, and we're waiting for kitchen cabinets. We can't do anything more.
Right.
Because after kitchen cabinets, you need countertops, you need plumbing, you need backsplash, electrical. So there's lots of work after that.
Sure.
And so that's one of the problems we have. And my plumber told me recently that he was having tough time getting ABS pipes. There's a shortage of that.
Yes.
Yep.
What about skilled tradespeople? Are they in short supply? Are you finding carpenters, electricians? Are they in short supply?
I think this is not a new problem. This is an existing problem.
Okay.
That exists prior to the pandemic, but it's become a bit worse because we've got all this work concentrated in a shorter time period.
Yeah, gotcha.
Because at some point there was a lockdown and we couldn't work, and then it took a while for City Hall to give us permits, and so there was a little bit of void, and then all of a sudden we have to get everything done. So there's definitely a shortage of skilled people, but we're trying to do our best to make things happen.
Well, look, it's been so interesting to talk to you this morning and get some insight for somebody in the business who's trying to build people homes in Ottawa and some of the challenges that are out there. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the president and CEO, R&D Construction, Roy Nandram. 11:45, Rob Snow Show. Prime Minister Trudeau will give an update on the government's response to COVID-19 coming up in a few minutes from now here on City News.
An old-fashioned traditional grocery store. You're going to find a butcher, okay? You want a steak cut a certain way, you're going to get it. There's flour piled in the warehouse. There's mixers on the floor. There's flour on the floor. The bakery's rented out to Frank Nicolo. It's him and his son come in at night. They mix the dough, they roll the dough, and they bake the dough. It's not the traditional frozen and thaw and put it in the bin, okay? It's made from scratch 7 days a week. It's probably the only bakery left in Ottawa that does that. Then customer service, we're big on that. The cashiers, the deli, you're not, if you ask for something, they're not going to point, it's an aisle number 7. They're going to bring you there, okay? If you have too much groceries out, we'll take it out to your car. You know what I mean? There's nothing we don't do for our customers. And we evolved around our customers. They would come in and say, can you try getting me this? Can you get me this? So that's how we built the lineup we have now, okay? So we have a lot of unique items that someone that came over to live in Canada hasn't seen this particular product, but we sourced it and we have it for them that, like something they used to have as a kid. We have a lot of those unique items, a lot. like all over the world. And we source it through, distributors in Montreal and Toronto that bring in the product in bulk, and we piggyback off of them. Probably the largest European deli in Ottawa. We sell lots because people buy lots. It's nothing really complicated about that. We turn over a lot of product. We package it properly. We buy, and we're always consistent. You're always going to buy, Cuddy turkey breast, Saint Daniel mortadella. You're always going to get the same brands. We don't flip back and forth to save 20 cents. It's always the same brands the last 29 years. Best sandwiches in town. It's simple. It starts off with fresh bread every day baked in the store. Anything that's left over goes to breadcrumbs. So you're getting a fresh bun every day that was baked probably 4 hours before you get here, okay? Not only baked, made, like, mix the flour, roll the dough, proof the bread, and bake the bread, okay? Then all the ingredients come right off the shelves. Your lettuce, your tomatoes, all your condiments, and they're cut up fresh in the deli. Not like the big, corporate restaurant chains that your lettuce comes in shredded in a bag, you open it up and you throw it in the bin. Takes, 2 or 3 days to get here from California. How long is it in the bag? The big difference is like making a sandwich at home and you don't have to do the work. It's really what the trick is, and using the freshest ingredients possible.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Mr. Trudeau had scheduled an 11:45 news conference with health officials, Dr. Tam, etc., to update the situation on COVID-19, and when it begins, we will bring it to you, assuming it begins in the next 8 minutes or so. David, I must ask you, you have a vaccine appointment.
I sure do.
So you must be excited about that.
Oh, am I ever excited about that?
So first and second appointments booked?
Yes. Yes.
Give me the dates, man. Give me the dates.
So the first one is June 14th.
June 14th. Okay. Wow, it's still a month from now or
still
something.
4 weeks out. Yeah. I will be going down to City Hall to get my my shot at the clinic there. And then the second appointment they gave me is October 4th.
Okay. That'll be your 2-dose fall.
That will be my 2-dose fall.
Right. Here is, do you have it here? We have it?
Today, I will be
Prime Minister Trudeau.
Situation regarding vaccine delivery, public health rules, and our long-term investments in biomanufacturing here at home. Let's start with vaccine delivery.
This week, we're receiving 4.5 million vaccine doses, including a shipment from Pfizer that has been moved up ahead of the holiday weekend. 4.5 million doses is our largest weekly shipment to date, and it'll help Canada keep within the top of the G20 on daily vaccinations, where we've been for, including a shipment from Pfizer that has been moved up ahead of the holiday weekend. 4.5 million doses is our largest weekly shipment to date, and it'll help Canada keep within the top of the G20 on daily vaccinations, where we've been for over 2 weeks. In fact, because of the number of vaccines arriving, yesterday, Ontario announced that anyone over 18 can sign up for a vaccine appointment starting today. To everyone who's been waiting patiently so that your parents and grandparents could go first, thank you. Thank you for hanging in there, but also thank you for now booking your appointments. Hospitals, pharmacies, and healthcare staff are all doing an incredible job rolling out vaccines to everyone. So I want to give another big shout out to all frontline workers who are part of this effort. With millions of vaccines arriving each week, getting doses into arms is a true Team Canada effort. With the leadership of people like Brigadier General Krista Brody, who's now heading up vaccine logistics and operations at the Public Health Agency, we're going to get this done. Brigadier General Brody had already played a key role in the vaccine rollout with the Public Health Agency. She, along with the team that's been there since day one, is ready and able to get millions of doses to Canadians in the coming weeks. On that note, this morning, I also want to share some very positive news about our vaccine deliveries for the summer. I can confirm that we'll receive 9 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine in June alone. That means that between now and at least the end of July, we'll continue to get over 2 million Pfizer doses a week. Aujourd'hui, je peux confirmer qu'on va recevoir un total de plus de 9 millions de doses de Pfizer en juillet. D'ici la fin juillet, on va continuer de recevoir plus de 2 millions de doses de Pfizer chaque semaine. La vaccination progresse rapidement. Cette semaine, on va recevoir 4,5 millions de doses, notre plus grand nombre de doses en une semaine à ce jour. Ces doses vont contribuer à maintenir le Canada dans les premiers pays du G20 en matière de vaccination quotidienne, une place qu'on occupe depuis 2 semaines déjà. Ces nouvelles sont encourageantes et voici ce que ça signifie pour vous et votre famille. This summer, once cases are low and at least 75% of people have had one dose and 20% have had a second, you can look forward to outdoor things like a small get-together in a backyard, going hiking, or sharing a meal on a patio. This fall, once 3/4 of eligible Canadians are fully vaccinated, we'll be able to do more of the indoor things we miss, whether that's watching sports in person or a dinner party in a restaurant. That's what a 1-dose summer and a 2-dose fall could mean for you and your family. We worry less, and we see each other more. And to get there, here's what we all need to continue to do right now. First, keep following the current public health restrictions for a few more weeks. Things can't open back up until cases are way down. Otherwise, we risk a 4th wave. Second, and this is key, get your vaccine. We can all help get back to the things we love by being vaccinated. Notre priorité est d'assurer votre sécurité et celle de votre famille. À court terme, on doit vaincre la COVID-19. Et à long terme, on doit bâtir un avenir plus sain et plus prospère. Aujourd'hui, j'annonce qu'on va investir près de 200 millions de dollars dans la compagnie Résilience Biotechnologie afin de renforcer notre capacité de fabriquer des vaccins et des produits thérapeutiques ici au Canada. En soutenant des installations et des compagnies pour qu'elles puissent travailler avec des nouvelles technologies, on positionne le Canada à la fine pointe de l'innovation dans le monde entier. Et c'est essentiel pour qu'on soit prêt à faire face à toute crise sanitaire future. Today's investment of almost $200 million in resilience biotechnologies will not only boost Canadian manufacturing, it will also support good Canadian jobs. This funding will maintain and create 500 well-paying, full-time jobs at the Resilience Facility in Mississauga, positions that people can rely on to provide for their families. It will also mean 50 co-op spots, which will help young people get their foot in the door in a growing sector. To rebuild from this pandemic, we're investing in Canada, in workers, in innovation, and in the future. Que ce soit pour créer des emplois dans le secteur de la biofabrication ou soutenir les entrepreneurs, on a un plan pour rebâtir un Canada plus fort et plus sécuritaire pour tous. La dernière année a été difficile, mais des jours meilleurs nous attendent. Merci. Je cède maintenant la parole au ministre Champagne. François Philippe.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for the introduction. Bien heureux de me joindre à vous aujourd'hui à partir de Shawinigan. Comme le Premier ministre l'a souligné, nos objectifs durant la pandémie ont été clairs. D'abord, de protéger la santé et la sécurité des Canadiens et des Canadiennes, et aussi de nous assurer que nous serons plus résilients pour le futur. To fully appreciate the importance of today's announcement, as outlined by the Prime Minister, we simply need to look to the past. As we have seen, our biomanufacturing sector had been in decline for almost 4 decades. At the outbreak of the pandemic, we lacked the capacity needed to attract the mass production of COVID-19 vaccines. But one thing is clear, Canada is well positioned to grow its leadership in the life sciences sector. We have the talent, we have the entrepreneurs, and we have the ecosystem to help this sector grow. That's why we have taken strategic immediate action with the long-term vision as we outlined with the announcement today. Since March 2020, we have invested well over $1 billion in rebuilding our domestic biomanufacturing sector. And in budget 2021, we doubled down on this commitment with $2.2 billion towards growing a vibrant domestic life sciences sector again. We are helping dozens of Canadian firms expand and are attracting foreign investment in Canada, as we are announcing with Resilience today. Nos investissements permettront d'accroître la compétitivité du Canada à l'échelle internationale dans le secteur des sciences de la vie. Ce qui nous amène, bien évidemment, à l'annonce d'aujourd'hui. Nous sommes heureux d'annoncer que nous investirons 199 millions de dollars dans la compagnie Résilience.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV.